On Halloween night, I discovered the unthinkable, my wife's secret affair with my best friend. As I watched her return with that unmistakable just been with someone else look, my world shattered. Fueled by betrayal and rage, I vowed to dismantle their lives piece by piece. My meticulous plan began to take shape, from financial sabotage to public humiliation. This isn't just a story of infidelity, it's a tale of the ultimate reckoning. As the truth unravels, their once perfect world crumbles, and they realize the full extent of crossing a man scorned. This is my story, my revenge, and their downfall. I just wrote 3 checks for $100,000 each, 2 to my wife's favorite charities and 1 to mine, the Wounded Warrior Project. We give every year. This time we donated more than usual because we have enough money saved. I thought that it would come back to bite her. My name is Kurt Van Hall. Until 6 weeks ago, I didn't see the truth about the woman I loved. I thought I loved her, but that's over now, and I want her to regret all the lies. I should have noticed something was off after our 4th of July gathering with friends. I think that was when she decided she wanted her own freedom. That night, she was the one who started being intimate with me. That never happens. She was so lively and excited, as if it had been years since we had that kind of connection. Now I think it may have been a chance for her to cheat, and I was just enjoying what I thought was my new wife. I knew she had a few drinks, but I didn't think much of it. I hoped it would happen more, but later that week, when I tried to get close again, she pushed me away. By Labor Day, I felt frustrated, and she was upset, saying, "That's all you ever want to do." I thought I was clueless, but there were signs I just missed. The Halloween party was a big moment for me. We were at a friend's house. Melanie, my wife, wanted to wear a revealing outfit. I didn't love it, but thought it might be fun with friends. At 5, 3 inches, and 120 pounds, with auburn hair, she looked good in her fishnet stockings, short black skirt, high heels, and mask. That isn't when I figured it out either. At the party, I lost track of her. She was getting a lot of attention in that outfit. After half an hour of not seeing her, I started to wonder where she went. Then I spotted her. She walked into the room where I was. This was my big moment. She had that look on her face, the calm look that many men know when someone has been unfaithful. Suddenly everything clicked. I thought back to the 4th of July that night, her feeling guilty, extra hours at her animal shelter job, her distant looks, and my frustration. I hadn't had intimacy since August. How could I have missed it? I told myself I was just naive and trusting. But who was it? I looked around for someone who might be hiding or smirking, but I didn't see anyone. I needed to do some digging before I accused my wife. Melanie and I come from different places, sort of. She's from the West Coast, and I'm from Iowa. We met in our junior year of college at Cornell College. No, not Cornell University. It's a small liberal arts school in Iowa. It's close to where I grew up, in a conservative town of mostly Dutch descent, just 30 minutes away. I don't understand why there are so many Dutch people in Iowa. They come from their country in Europe with dikes, canals, and marshes, and then settle in Iowa, which is flat and has cornfields, cows, chickens, and churches. It's a bit strange to me, but that's where I grew up, and it shaped who I am. Melanie grew up in California, but not in the more traditional North. No, she grew up in Southern California, which is known for being very open-minded. You might wonder how she ended up at Cornell College. It's a liberal arts school, but liberal means different things to different people. Her parents met there before they moved to California for work. They thought it would be good for Melanie to learn some Midwest values at their old school. So Melanie Scott applied, got accepted, and started attending Cornell College. We met in a library. I was studying for an engineering class because I was majoring in mechanical engineering when I heard a frustrated voice ask the librarian, "Do you have an Algebra for Dummies book? I'm retaking this class and still don't get it." Math has always been easy for me, so when I heard algebra, I looked up to see who was talking. There at the desk was the most beautiful girl I had ever seen. She had auburn hair and was short but had a confident presence. The librarian checked and said, "Sorry, it's checked out. I'm going to fail the test. I can't fail it. What will I do?" the girl cried out. "Maybe you should go back to your dorm room and study the practice questions," the librarian suggested. "My roommate and her boyfriend are there. I won't be able to focus," the girl replied. Well, you can study here, but we close in 25 minutes, the librarian said. The girl dropped her book on a table and sat down with a big sigh. I got up and walked over to her. I was nervous and didn't know what to say. She looked at me and asked, "What do you want?" I stuttered a bit and finally said, "I can help you." She looked confused and asked, "How?" "I'm really good at math." "You don't look like me, even if you put on a dress, so you can't take the test for me," she said. "I could help you study," I offered. "I don't think I can learn anything. I've tried, but I'm not good at math," she said sadly. "I'd like to give it a shot," I said. "Why would you want to help me?" she asked. "I want to help someone in trouble," I said, feeling confident now. "I'm Kurt, by the way." She smiled a little and said, "Well, the one in trouble is named Melanie." "How much will you charge me?" she asked, thinking I was a tutor. "It depends on how well you do on your test," I answered. "All right," she said, thinking for a moment. "If I pass, I'll buy you pizza." "It can't be from Domino's. If you pass, you have to take me to Gus and Tony's," I replied. "It's a well-known pizza place in Mount Vernon, Iowa." "Okay," she said. "That will be worth it." I decided to take a chance. "What if you get a C on the test? What will you do?" "Then I'll give you a kiss after dinner," she said with a grin. "And if you get a B?" I asked, hoping for something more. "If you help me get a B, I'll let the girls out of the corral," she joked, playfully holding her hands on her chest. I must have looked surprised because she laughed and said, "If I get an A, you can ask me anything." She really didn't believe in her chance to learn or my chance to teach. With that, I suggested we go somewhere quiet to study. So we hopped in my car and headed to Denny's. We found a booth and I ordered nachos. I told the waitress that we'd be there for a while, promising a good tip. Melanie was serious. She really struggled with math, especially algebra. She couldn't understand that letters stand for numbers. I began with simple math questions. "What is 3 4? 7, she replied. "Great. Now see that line? In algebra, we use letters instead of lines." "Why?" she asked, confused. "Because different letters can mean different numbers. Let me show you." I wrote down 3 4A. Think of A as the space we had. So what is A? "A equals 7, she said. "Good. Now 3B7, I wrote. "What is B?" "4, she answered. "So we use different letters for different numbers. Here's another one. 3xB6. "What is B now?" "B is 2, she replied. In algebra, we use letters and numbers, and instead of x for multiplication, we just write them next to each other. So 3xB6 becomes 3B6. "What is B?" I asked. 2, because 3 times 2 equals 6. "Great! Now for division 6b3, what is B?" "Still 2, because 6 divided by 2 equals 3. "Now you're starting to understand," I said, happy to see her progress. We stayed there until almost 3 in the morning. Many times I saw her face light up. She finally got it. Her class started at 10, so I drove her back to her dorm. I told her not to worry and to get a full 6 hours of sleep. Don't try to quickly learn everything before the test in the morning. That will only make you anxious. She thanked me and gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. Then, with a playful smile, she said, "I hope I get an A." Then she turned and left. Was she saying what I think she was saying? I wondered to myself. I can't wait to see how she does. I didn't get to be alone with her, and the other girls didn't get to join us, but I did get pizza and a kiss. Actually, I got more than one kiss, and the girls seemed really excited, judging by what I could see through her sweater. Things moved forward, and she finally got an A on a test. Soon we were officially a couple. Summer break was coming, and I needed to find an internship. I wanted to stay in Southern California so we could keep dating. I had no luck with that, but I found an internship at the Numi plant near San Francisco. It was a long drive, around 6 hours or more, depending on traffic, so I could only see her on the weekends. I met her parents, and I think they liked me. They told me I had made their girl calmer. We really enjoyed our time together. I felt worn out every weekend because she was full of energy. When fall came, we returned to college. I studied a lot. I wanted to get good grades to find a good job so I could marry Melanie. Melanie was working on her degree in human resources. We both worked hard in school and had fun, too. It was a wonderful year. We talked about our hopes and dreams. I wanted to marry her and have a lot of kids. Melanie believed in having a small family. She said we should have 2 kids, a boy and a girl. So I adjusted my hopes to having 1 boy and 1 girl. For our dream house, I wanted 3 bedrooms and 1.5 bathrooms, about 1,500 square feet. She wanted 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms with 3,000 square feet. So we can have guests over and they have a place to sleep, she said. I guess I need to find a really good job, I thought. As for goals, I know it sounds strange, but I wanted to visit all the state capitals and all the capitals in Europe. I wanted to travel and hike in Europe. She wanted to volunteer at her favorite charities, the ASPCA and Planned Parenthood. I didn't really understand that. Coming from my background in Iowa, one group wanted to save baby animals, and the other helped end pregnancies. To me, that seemed like a mixed message. We had a few talks about it until I decided to just drop it. In late winter of my senior year, I got a job offer from a plant that supplies the big 3 car makers. They supplied all car companies. My time interning at NUMMI really helped me. However, this meant that we would have to move to Michigan, near Detroit. On my drive back from the 4th interview, I learned I got the job. As I drove for 9 hours, I thought about a lot of things. First was asking Melanie to marry me. I was sure she would say yes. Second was how to help her find a job in the same area. Third was where we would live. I thought it would be smart to rent an apartment until we knew the area better, and then start looking for our first home. I had a clear picture of my future. I imagined getting married, buying a house, and having kids. We would spend time at baseball games, soccer matches, and ballet recitals. Once the kids went to college, we would start traveling. On my way back home, I made a stop in Chicago. I had a $5,000 signing bonus with me. I planned to buy an engagement ring. I found a small, family-owned jewelry shop and bought a beautiful engagement ring and wedding band set for $4,000. I felt so happy. When I got back to Mount Vernon, I called Melanie and asked her out for dinner. I proposed during dessert. She said yes with tears in her eyes. After that, I told her about my job offer. She was happy for me but worried about moving to Michigan. Isn't it cold there most of the year? And Detroit? I smiled and said, Honey, it's not colder than Iowa in winter. There's so much to do there. You'll love it. With wedding plans underway, we got married in California on May 23rd. We had a honeymoon at Niagara Falls and then set up our first apartment. I started my career on June 1st. Melanie found a job with a temp agency. She was doing hiring and human resources work. It was good experience, but she wanted a job with a big company that hired people directly. Life kept us on our toes. We thought we would wait a few years to have kids, but 8 months after our wedding, we found out we were expecting a baby. We couldn't believe how our lives would change. We quickly started looking for a house. We bought a nice Cape Cod-style home with 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. It wasn't too big, but perfect for starting our family. In 9 months, we were blessed with a baby girl named Kaylee Jane. I called her KJ, but Melanie always called her Kaylee. She was perfect with strawberry blonde hair, blue eyes, and 10 tiny fingers and toes. The moment she wrapped her fingers around mine, I was completely in love. After the baby arrived, things changed as I expected. However, I didn't see one change coming. Melanie showed little interest in being intimate, even months after giving birth. I had to encourage her each time. I was shocked. My wife, who once enjoyed those moments, no longer wanted to. We talked about it several times, but she hardly ever agreed. I wanted to try for another baby, hoping for a boy. I asked our family doctor about it, and she said it could be due to postpartum depression. Melanie didn't seem sad, though. She cared for KJ just as much as I did. We were happy outside the bedroom. I suggested she see someone about it. She went, but not happily, to a therapist who said it might be a form of PTSD. Melanie had a difficult time during childbirth, and it stayed with her. The therapist was hopeful that, with more help, things could get better. I really wanted a son, so I asked her for a baby. After a while, I began to track her monthly cycle. I tried to find the best days for her to get pregnant, and on those days, I really pushed for us to be together. We did have some moments together, but no baby came. I loved Melanie, and after a few more years, I set aside my wish for a son. I focused on enjoying my wife and our sweet daughter. If I was honest, I gave a lot of my love and time to KJ instead. Melanie chose to stay home with KJ and never went back to a regular job. She just volunteered. Now, 17 years after KJ was born, we had a nice big house and a good job. Everything at home seemed fine, but I felt something was off. At the party, I waited for 10 minutes, trying to figure out who Melanie was seeing. I wanted to leave. "Melanie," I said, "I feel a migraine coming on. I want to get home and in bed before it gets really bad." I was pretending, and she looked upset. "Are you sure it's a migraine and not a little flu?" she asked. "I know the difference," I replied sharply. "That wasn't like me." "Okay, let's go. I'll tell Susan and Jim." She looked worried. On the way home, I stayed quiet and closed my eyes. At first, it seemed like I was trying to block the headlights, but really, I didn't want to see her. If I looked at her, I knew I'd cry. She began to talk, but before she could say much, I interrupted. "Can you just be quiet and take the back roads? Fewer lights?" I was making a big show of my worst migraine ever. When we got home, I rushed to our bedroom, took off my clothes, and got into bed in the dark. Melanie walked in and started moving around. I snapped again, "Be quiet, you're making it worse." She left the room and quietly closed the door. Now I had to think. How was I going to find out who she was seeing? Should I hire a private investigator? Just then, I heard her phone ring. I quietly opened the door a bit. She was downstairs, and I could just hear her talking. "No, I can't come back. Kurt is really hurting. This is the worst migraine he's ever had. I wish I could come back, but I can't leave him. Would you leave Mary if she was sick? You probably would to catch another piece of this ass." Mary. There were 2 Marys in our circle of friends. I needed to find out which husband it was. Then I heard it. "I know, Jack. I wanted more time with you, too. I wanted to give Kurt sloppy seconds like the first time, but I can't do that tonight. He can hardly move." Jack Anderson. Of course, another California liberal. He and Mary moved here about 7 years ago with their daughter, Jasmine. Jasmine was a year older than KJ, but they were still friends. She was attending Wayne State University and chose to live at home to save on dorm fees. Jack Anderson. I can't believe it. He worked as a salesman for a company that supplied parts for my business. We were their biggest customer. I will make him pay more than he knows. I sneaked back to my room. The old saying is, revenge is best served cold. But I don't agree. I like fast revenge. Hot and now. I want it to happen before they even see it coming. I needed a plan, because that's what I do as an engineer. I find a problem and make a plan to fix it. First, I had to make sure I didn't see Melanie too much. I didn't know how to hide my anger from her at that moment. Tomorrow is Saturday. That's one of Melanie's volunteer days at the animal shelter. I had to wake up feeling okay enough that she wouldn't have to stay home with me. KJ, now a senior in high school, could always help me if I needed anything. About an hour later, Melanie came in and turned on the light. I screamed in pain. She quickly turned it off again. Then she whispered, "I'm going to stay in one of the guest bedrooms tonight. I hope you feel better." I groaned to show I understood. In the morning, Melanie checked on me, but I pretended to be asleep. She grabbed her clothes and left the room. After she told KJ to keep an eye on me, she went to work. I got up, took a shower, and got dressed. As I walked downstairs to the kitchen, I saw KJ making breakfast. Pancakes, eggs, and bacon. "Hey, Dad, Mom said you had a really bad migraine last night. I didn't think you'd be up this early. Want me to make you some breakfast?" "That would be great, KJ. You're the best daughter a guy could have." She smiled at me with warmth in her eyes. She was my whole world now. I had to handle this situation carefully for her sake. It was her senior year after all, and she'd be off to college next year. We chatted about school, boys, sports, and more. Then I asked, "Have you decided which college you want to go to next fall?" "I'm not sure yet, Dad. I know I want to study engineering, but I don't want to upset you." "How would that upset me?" I asked, feeling proud that my daughter wanted to follow my path. "Well, I think I want to go to Cornell." "Wow, our school, that's great." "No, Dad, Cornell University. I have to admit I felt a little sad hearing that." The other Cornell. Still, it was a top engineering school. I guess I could accept it. "That's wonderful. They are one of the best. I would be proud to have a daughter graduate from either Cornell. Have you sent in your application yet?" "I sent it out 4 weeks ago. I really want to know something before Christmas so I can start making plans." "I'll see if I can ask some friends to help you out," he replied. "That would be great, Dad." After breakfast, I told KJ that I was going to work. I had some important things to take care of. I went to the office to sort out my plans. First, I thought about my daughter. I checked the profiles of all the engineers at our plant and other locations. None of the engineers here went to Cornell University, but 2 at another plant did. One of them was a department head I knew from meetings. I'll call him first thing Monday morning, I told myself. Now about getting back at my wife, who might soon be my ex-wife, and Jack Anderson. Jack would be the easier target. I talked to a few guys on the production line. Yes, they work on Saturdays. Some of them had rough pasts and even criminal records. I asked them who I should talk to for a fun prank, I said. Talk to Andy. He'll help you out. But if it's for you, be careful. Perfect. That's exactly what I need, I thought. Since Andy didn't work on Saturdays, I would have to wait until Monday for that. I needed to make a list for Monday. Talk to Ben in New Jersey about KJ. Talk to Andy. Talk to HR about cashing out my 401k. Call a divorce lawyer for information in case things didn't work out. I knew a few men who had gone through divorces. Their stories were terrible. If they thought things were hard during their marriage, the divorce was worse. I was determined not to let that happen to me. For now, I decided to get some more things done. I went to the bank and took out all but $10,000. Then I went to another bank and opened a checking account just in my name. I also got a credit card only in my name. After that, I called the credit card company to pay it off and lowered the limit to $1,000. Next, I called a private investigator to discuss my options. I needed to know Jack's routine. We set an appointment for Monday. After that, I went to Radio Shack and bought motion-sensitive cameras and recorders that turn on with sound. It was around noon, so I called Melanie to see when she would be home. Hi, honey. I'm sorry about last night. I didn't mean to upset you, I said, trying hard not to give away anything. How are you feeling? Do you need me to come home? No, I'm feeling better. I'm going to run some errands and then work in the yard to rake the leaves. That's good to hear. I'm really busy, so I might not be home until dinner, she replied. I wondered if I should trust her or go check on her. It didn't matter. It actually worked out well. I would have plenty of time to do what I needed to, so I went home. It took me about 3 hours to set up everything in the house. KJ was out with friends all day. Teenagers usually don't spend much time at home. I decided to check the new laptop I bought. I had set it up to record everything and I hid it in the basement. No one goes down there, not even for laundry. Melanie spent a lot of money to remodel the second floor, over $20,000, all to make me happy. Now I needed to get outside and start raking the leaves. I wanted to finish at least half before she got home. Around 5 o'clock, she opened the sliding glass door and said she was home. She asked me, "How are you feeling?" "I'm good enough to rake leaves. I should have them all bagged by about 7 o'clock. "I'll help you," she replied. "Just let me change." 5 minutes later, she came out of the garage with a rake. We began raking up the leaves. I didn't talk much. I didn't want her to sense that something was wrong. We finished around 6:30, and she said she was going to start dinner. I went upstairs to shower and put on some comfy clothes. I chose a Cornell College sweatshirt. I wondered how she would react to that. Would it remind her of good times? I came back downstairs as she was setting the table. "Dinner will be ready in about 10 minutes, she told me. Great. That gives me just enough time to take the bags of leaves to the curb for Monday. I opened the sliding door and stepped into the backyard. I opened the gate to the side yard and took the bags one by one to the curb. I had already filled 15 bags, and the trees still had plenty of leaves left. Back inside, I stopped at the small bathroom off the mudroom to wash my hands. Then I sat down to eat. The dinner was chicken breasts on rice with a vegetable mix. It's strange how little things could upset me now. I smiled and ate quietly while she talked about her busy day at the shelter. I only half listened, making a few sounds to show I was paying attention. After dinner, we watched TV for about an hour. Then I said, "I'm going to go to bed early. I want to try to get rid of this headache. It's not too bad, but a little extra rest should help." So, by 8:30, I was in bed. I think I fell asleep by 8:45. I hadn't slept well the night before, so I was tired. On Sunday, I got up to get ready for church. KJ met me at the bottom of the stairs, ready to go. I asked Melanie if she was going, and she said, "Not this week." It was funny. She hadn't gone much since July 4th. That was another sign I missed, but I never pushed her about it. She always had a spotty church attendance. At church, the sermon was about forgiveness. I wondered, could I forgive Melanie? I kept thinking, why did she do this? Some women see turning 40 as a big deal. Was she trying to feel young again before she turned 40 in a few months? When the service ended, I just sat there. One of my friends came up to me and asked, "How was your Halloween?" I looked at my friend and said, "It was awful. One of the worst nights I've ever had." KJ then told me he came home with a really bad headache. That wasn't it, I thought. That was just a story to skip your mom. I couldn't tell KJ that. "I'm sorry to hear that, Kurt. I'll pray for you," he said. "Pray for the whole family," I replied. Then I walked away. When we got home, lunch was ready. We had roast beef with all the sides. Melanie had really become a good cook. At the start of our marriage, it was hit or miss. How do you mess up a simple manwich? I wasn't sure if they still made chunky-style manwich, but she made one for me, and I ate it on a bun. I didn't say anything bad about it. About an hour after dinner, she noticed in the fridge that she hadn't cooked the hamburger. We both laughed, and I told her, "Everything you do makes me happy." That was the past. This is now. After lunch, I told Melanie I was going out to check my deer blind in the woods. "Oh, I didn't know you were going hunting this year. You haven't gone for a few years." "Yeah, I think I'll go at least once." For those who don't know, November 15th is the first day for rifle deer hunting in Michigan. It's not an official holiday, but it feels like one. Many businesses close for those first few days. It gave me a good reason to be gone for at least a day. Sunday night was back on track. I didn't start anything, so we didn't have that kind of night, and that was fine with me. I wouldn't even think about it right now for anything in the world. Monday was going to be busy. I got to work at 7 o'clock and called Ben in New Jersey. I had to leave a message because I guess department heads didn't get in until 9 o'clock there. Next, I emailed Human Resources to set up a time to meet. Then I walked around to see if Andy had a minute to talk. I found him waiting for supplies, so I asked if we could chat. "Sure, Kurt." "What's up?" he replied. "Well, I'd rather not talk about it here. It's personal. Do you have some time today, or maybe after work?" "Sure, once I get the line running, it pretty much takes care of itself. I can ask one of the guys to cover for me." "Great. Meet me in my office when you can. I'll be waiting." About half an hour later, Andy came in. "What can I do for you, boss?" "Andy, you know I'm not your boss." "You should be. You're the only one who knows what's really going on here." I smiled, but then frowned. I did know what was going on at work, but I didn't understand anything at home. I felt lost. I used to be different. "Andy, I need to talk to you about something important. I need you to keep it secret, okay? Nobody can know about this. Unless you're planning something crazy like a big crime or anything, I won't say a word. I can even help you out if you need an alibi. It's not that serious. At least for most people it won't be." "I'm listening." "Go on," he said. "I am thinking about hiring a woman." He interrupted. "Whoa, I didn't think you were that type." "It's not for me, Andy. I want to get back at an old friend." "Why would you want to get him a woman if he's your ex-friend? Is he threatening you?" "No, let's just say it's for revenge." "So what are you going to do? Take pictures and threaten him?" "No, I might take pictures, but that's not the goal. I want a woman who looks like a regular housewife." "Oh, I see. You want to get him in trouble with his partner." "That might happen, but what I really want is for him to get an illness. Do you think we can find someone for that in 2 weeks on November 14th? "Wow, that's harsh. But I can see why you're mad. Remind me not to get on your bad side." "Do you think you can help me find her?" "Yeah, I think I can. The main issue would be getting the woman to agree to carry the illness for a week or so." "I can pay $1,000. Would that work?" "I'm not sure. She might be out of business for at least 2 weeks. "Okay, how about $2,000? That's $1,000 a week plus $500 for you for finding her." "Deal. I'll give you all the details soon. You just find the woman." Andy left, and I leaned back, smiling. Now, I needed to move on to the next part of my plan. As the engineer in charge of a lot of the machines, many people ask for my opinion about the plant. I keep all the business cards from salespeople, engineers, and others. I just needed to find the right one. I started sorting through the cards and picked out one from XYZ Dye Inc. We hadn't bought much from them, but that could change soon. I called the number on the card and asked for a meeting with the salesman and the maker. They were eager to come. They could be here this afternoon. I was relaxing in my chair, thinking about how my plans would work out when my boss, the CEO, poked his head in and said good morning. "Oh, hi, Brad. I was just going to ask for a meeting with you this morning, but I thought I'd have to wait for Jill to come in. I have time now, if that's good for you." "Sure, that's perfect. Thanks, Brad. By the way, I heard you worked a few hours on Saturday." "Is there something I should know about?" "Well, that's kind of what I want to talk to you about." "What's up?" "It's personal and doesn't really have much to do with work." "Kurt, you've been here for almost 20 years. We're like family. You can talk to me about anything." So I shared everything that was going on. I asked him to keep it just between us, and he promised he would. I still can't believe Melanie would do that. It makes me think I should be careful in my own marriage, too. How can I help? The guy who used to be my friend is a salesman at ABC Dyes. I helped him get this job 7 years ago. I want to find another company to work with. If they can do the same work for the same price or less, I want to tell ABC we don't need them anymore, but I don't make those choices. "I can help with that," Brad replied. "Who will you call to take their place?" "I already made an appointment with XYZ Dye this afternoon. We already buy some of our parts from them, and they've always done a good job." "What should I say to ABC when I call them?" "Tell them we're unhappy with their salesman and that XYZ has promised better prices and faster service, that is, if the meeting goes well today. Let me know how it goes this afternoon." "Thanks, Brad. It feels good to be part of a family." As he left, I smiled. My plans were forming. Next, I called a divorce lawyer and set up a meeting for Tuesday. I checked my email and saw a message from Human Resources. I could go see them any time before 11 o'clock. I decided to go right away. You never know what could happen in a factory. I could get a call any moment and be busy all morning. Sherry, the HR director, welcomed me and asked how she could help. I told her I had personal matters to deal with and needed to cash out my 401k. "You'll lose a lot of money unless you move it to another retirement account." "I know, but I can't do anything about that." "What do I need to do?" She helped me fill out the forms and again tried to change my mind. Before I left, I asked how much vacation time I had left. She looked it up and said I had 4 weeks plus 10 personal days. Wow, that's 6 weeks. That would help with my plans. I'd get the money directly deposited into my new checking account within 10 business days. That afternoon, the meeting with XYZ went well. They were eager to earn our business. I had asked Brad, Mr. Smith, the production manager, and a few production techs to join me. They all asked great questions, and the XYZ salesman and die maker answered them confidently. It made us feel good about the choice we were making. After the meeting, I spoke to Brad and asked him to wait until next Monday to talk to ABC. He agreed. This would give XYZ time to prepare everything. After work, I met with the private investigator. I needed him to follow Jack and learn as much as he could about him, especially what Jack did every day. On Tuesday, I met with the lawyer. He told me it could take months to get a divorce, and since we lived in a no-fault state, I didn't need proof of cheating. He also mentioned that I would lose a lot of money in the divorce. I thought, great, I have to struggle while we're married, and I'll lose even more when I divorce her. I told him I would think about it, trying to see if I could accept Melanie's past mistakes. If we could get back together, I might be better off. But if Melanie kept being unfaithful, I wanted to get divorced by the end of the year. The lawyer also mentioned that 2 out of the 3 judges who could look at our case usually favored the woman, often giving her at least 60% of everything we owned. I already knew that and was planning to do something about it. If the lawyer's prediction came true, I would end up letting her keep the house and giving her money for her expenses. That couldn't happen. I had to think. Could Melanie and I move past this? I loved her. And maybe this was a mistake she made just once. I didn't know if I could truly forgive her. I thought that if she came to me before Thanksgiving and admitted it, I might be able to forgive her. I would give her a chance to tell me, but I also had to consider she might be unfaithful again. The rest of the week went as normal as I could make it. I didn't make any moves, so there was no intimacy, which was my plan since Halloween. On Friday, Andy came into my office and asked if we could chat. I said, "Now is a great time, I'm just waiting for the weekend." I found the right girl. She's 35, looks like a mother, and agreed to get the STD so she'll be ready by next Friday. How will she do that? It's already done. She'll be infectious but won't show any signs yet. How long until there are signs? I asked. Usually it takes 2 to 3 weeks. Perfect, I said. Thanksgiving weekend is when everything will be revealed. I called the private investigator and found out Jack's routine. He usually stops at a hotel restaurant with a bar after work. He has a drink, flirts with the waitresses, and then goes home. That was just what I needed. It's great when a plan comes together, and this one was working. The weekend was filled with raking leaves. Why can't they all fall down at once? I filled 15 more bags, and there were still leaves on the trees. I think some of my neighbors are sending their leaves to my yard just to see me get upset. Oh well, it kept me busy. And this time Melanie didn't come to help. Thank goodness for small favors. On Sunday morning it was church time again, just KJ and me with no sign of Melanie. After the service, KJ said something to me. "Dad, is everything okay?" "Of course, why do you ask? I can tell something's off. You're not acting like yourself." I didn't want to lie to my daughter, but I needed to keep her from worrying or telling her mom about this. So I told her, "It's just some stuff going on at work. Please don't mention this to your mom. She'll get worried, and I don't want that, especially with the holidays coming." "Okay, Dad. I hope it's not too serious, but remember, we can handle whatever comes our way." I smiled at her because I believed that. I knew we had raised a strong daughter. After church, we went home, and Melanie had lunch ready. We ate like we always do. Then Melanie asked KJ if she wanted to go shopping that afternoon to get some ideas for Christmas. "Sure, Mom, that sounds fun. Dad, do you want to come?" "Nah, you two should enjoy some mother-daughter time." After lunch, they left, and I decided to check my laptop downstairs. I hadn't looked at it yet. I guess I was a bit afraid to. There wasn't much to see at first. But then I heard half of a conversation Melanie had with Jack. "Oh, hi, Jack. How's my dear friend doing?" I felt anger rising inside me. "Kurt's doing fine. Back to normal. He has those sometimes. I can't wait to see you again. With the holidays coming up, I'm sure I can use shopping as a reason to see you. We'll need to figure out when and where to meet. Hey, KJ just walked in. I'll talk to you later." So, another secret meeting with Jack. At least it's not happening in our home. I'll have to hire a private investigator to find out more. On Monday morning, I talked to Andy and set up a meet for Friday night at the hotel bar. The plan is that my friend will pretend to be a woman having a drink to calm her nerves before going home to tell her husband she lost her job. She hopes he won't get upset. Again. They say misery loves company, and by Friday, either Jack will have lost his job or he'll be worried he might lose it. Brad called ABC Dye and asked to speak to the owner. He told him we were taking our business away starting next Monday. The owner was shocked and asked why. Brad did what I asked. The owner said, "Let me look into this and call you back." He must have been very nervous because we made up more than half of their business. They needed to find new clients fast or start laying off workers. Brad got a call back and was told he would have a new salesperson who could match any quote from the competition. Brad told him to send the new salesperson over, and we would talk on Wednesday afternoon. Brad asked me to join the meeting. Both the new salesperson and the owner came in looking worried. We talked, and by the end of the meeting it was clear the owner was very angry about how the previous salesperson had treated us. We told him he came in here like he knew everything would be fine, like we would never stop working with him. Still, we agreed to use them as backup sometimes. When it was time to leave, we went out the door. I called my private investigator and asked him to check the bar tonight, tomorrow, and Friday to see if Jack shows up, especially on Friday when my other plan would start. I also wanted him to take pictures. On Thursday, something must have happened with Jack. I guessed he was told he lost an important account, which would hurt his paycheck a lot. That evening at home, I told Melanie I was going to the basement to clean my rifle for the weekend. While I was down there, the PI called. He said Jack had been at the bar and had drunk 3 drinks. He seemed very worried about something. When I came back upstairs, I asked Melanie when dinner would be ready. She seemed lost in thought. I had to ask her again. She looked up and said, "Oh, I guess I'll order pizza." "Okay," I replied. "Just let me know when it gets here. I'm going to get my hunting gear ready." When the pizza arrived, we sat down to eat. KJ was at a friend's house, so it was just Melanie and me. She seemed distracted, but I didn't want to bring it up. As we finished eating in silence, she asked, "Is something going on at work?" "Business has been slow lately," I explained. "They are blaming it on the election and the holidays." "Do you think your job is safe?" she asked carefully. "I believe so. I've been there for almost 20 years, and I'm the highest paid person at the plant, besides the plant manager and the CFO. I wanted to be honest, but also plant some worry about the future." "Why do you ask?" "Mary called and said that Jack mentioned there were big changes happening at your plant." "Don't worry, honey," I said. "If there were big changes, I would know about it." "Jack is worried about his job. Your plant is half their business. If your plant goes down, so do they. I guess I'll have to pay more attention at work to figure out what's really going on. The plant shuts down tomorrow for deer season, so only a few of us engineers and maintenance workers will be there to see how we can make things better. Maybe I can finish early so we can do some hunting ourselves." "How can you think about that when we might be in trouble soon? What if you lose your job? How will we manage?" I knew she would worry about this. I wasn't going to go there anyway. "Maybe you should call Jack and talk to him about what he heard," she suggested. "I'll speak to Brad tomorrow if I see him. I'm sure you're worrying for no reason." "I hope you're right. Mary is really worried," she said. On Friday morning, I went to work. When production is shut down, maintenance needs a lot of help, and I got busy. I didn't really think about anything until around 3 o'clock. I called my private investigator. He got everything ready. He said, "No problem. If Jack books a room, I have one all set up with my hidden cameras and recorders. It's funny what you can do with a couple $100. "Thanks, Bob. Let me know what you find. I'd like to see it tomorrow morning if that's okay. My wife thinks I'm going hunting so I can stay out until dark. I was planning to go after a buck in the morning, but I'll be back by noon. Does that work for you?" He replied. "That sounds good. Should I meet you at your office?" I asked. "Sure, let's make it 12:30 just in case I actually catch one this year. I haven't had any luck for the last 3 years, so I'm not really counting on it, but a guy can hope." Got it. I hung up and had one more call to make. I needed to call my bank to start a home equity loan. I wanted to take out as much money as I could. Just in case things got better, I didn't want to have any fees for paying it back early. I made an appointment for Monday at 9 a.m. I could always cancel if Melanie felt bad and wanted to talk over the weekend. When I got home, Melanie wasn't back from work yet, so I went downstairs to check the laptop. Nothing new there. I brought my gun and hunting gear up and placed them by the front door for the next morning. Then I went to the kitchen, grabbed a beer, and sat on the couch, thinking about my life. A few minutes later, Melanie walked in. One last chance, I thought. "Hey, babe. I got home early and thought we could reconnect. Want to go upstairs so I can show you I love you?" "Honey, you don't have to do that for me to know you love me. I'm not in the mood right now. Maybe tomorrow after you get back from hunting. What time will you be back?" I sighed and said, "Probably around 5 o'clock. I don't want to be in the woods when it starts getting dark. Some hunters can get jumpy as the sun goes down and shoot at anything that moves." I wondered if she wanted to be close again. "So, what's for dinner?" I asked. "Manwich," she replied. I chuckled to myself. KJ came in a bit later and we set the table for dinner. We sat down and started eating. "KJ, did I ever tell you about the first time your mom made me manwich?" "Yeah, Dad. She forgot the hamburger," she said, laughing. Melanie gave me a look that could stop anyone. She hated when I mentioned that. "Well, she's come a long way since then. Now she's the best cook I know," I said. But Melanie's glare stayed. After dinner, KJ got ready to go out, so it was just Melanie and me at home again. We watched some TV. At 8:30, I said, "I'm going to bed so I can wake up early for the woods at dawn." One last chance, I thought again as I asked, "Do you want to join me? It's only 8:30. If I go to bed now, I'll wake up at 3 o'clock and won't be able to sleep again." Well, a guy can try. So, off to bed I went. My alarm rang at 4:30, and I was out the door by 5 o'clock. I went to Denny's and ordered a Grand Slam breakfast. As I sat there, I thought about the last 20 years with Melanie. Where did we make mistakes? Why was she doing this? Could I forgive her? Could my love for her overcome everything? When my food came, I picked at it. I wasn't really hungry. I just sat there, remembering the good times we had. Were those days behind us now? After about an hour and a half, I got up, only eating half of my meal. I left a $20 bill on the table and walked out. I drove around and ended up by the Detroit River. I stared across at Windsor. I had lived here for almost 20 years and hadn't done much to reach my dreams. I had never even visited Canada's capital. I needed to change that. I wanted to see every state capital and hike in Europe. I should have plenty of free time soon. After a while, I drove to my work. I walked in and saw the maintenance crew working on their tasks. I knew there was a good chance I might not be here much longer. When my marriage ends, I will have to move. I had put everything into my marriage, but that felt lost now. My job would likely be gone too. KJ would be off to college. I would have nothing holding me to this place. I sat in my office until noon. Then I got up and went to the private investigator's office. I should have known that what I would see would not make me feel any better. Just like I thought, my plan worked out. Misery loves company, and Jack was the kind of guy who would take the troubled woman who just lost her job to our special room. I wondered if he would get an infection right away. I didn't know. Thanksgiving was in 2 weeks, and I planned to be out of town on an emergency all weekend. If Melanie didn't get sick by then, I was sure she would soon after. I have to say, Jack was smooth. He listened to her story about losing her job, about how her husband would be angry and might hurt her. Then he said, "You just need to feel the gentle touch of someone caring. You should never have to stay with someone who hits you." He worked his way into her feelings. He told her he would get her a room where she could spend the night and deal with her husband in the morning or leave him. A woman should never have to accept being hurt. Maybe I should stay here tonight. I should call him and say I have to work late on a project or something. That's a good idea. You make the call. I'll get the room for you. "I can't ask you to do that for me," she said. "What kind of man would I be if I didn't help a lady in trouble?" he replied. Those words hit me hard. I had been Melanie's knight in shining armor years ago, saving her when she needed help. Now those words felt bitter in my mouth. We watched as they walked into the room. He was really kind, asking if she was okay and if he could help her in any way. "You're so sweet. Can you just hold me for a bit?" Andy thought she was amazing. She was like someone who could win an award for how well she acted. He held her close for a minute before saying, "I should go. You need some time to relax and think about your future. Please don't leave. Not yet." "Okay, I can stay for maybe an hour. I should go home to my wife, but honestly, she probably wouldn't even notice I'm gone. Things aren't good between us anymore." "I can't believe that. You are so loving. How can she not see how great you are?" she asked. "We haven't done anything romantic in a long time," he replied. They looked into each other's eyes and shared a kiss. Soon they were taking off their clothes quickly. There was a sense of urgency. Jack held her and fell back onto the bed, both of them without clothes, wrapped up in each other. She pulled back a little and said, "Let me show you how much I care. I want to make you happy." Then she moved down and kissed him. After a few moments, Jack said, "Wow, you're amazing at this. How could anyone not treat you well?" Then she laid him back on the bed and got on top of him. She breathed heavily as he entered her. "You're so much bigger than my last partner. I'm on the pill, so just go for it." "I like when you talk like that," Jack said. "You have a wild side, don't you?" Jack didn't realize how right he was. Then he took over, moving her to be on all fours. "Do you like it like this?" he asked. "Oh, yes," she replied. Then he tried to touch her in another way. She flinched and said, "No thanks. I've never done that before." "Just try it. You might like it," he said. "I don't know. It seems like it would hurt." "Let me get some lotion from the bathroom. It will make it easier," he said. "I'm not sure." "Listen," he said strongly. "You'll give it a try and you'll enjoy it." "All right, go get the lotion," she said. When he pulled away and went to the bathroom, she quickly slipped on her dress, grabbed her shoes, and ran to the door. When he came out, she gave him a quick gesture and closed the door behind her. He yelled, "You're so mean!" He was angry. He had held back for too long, and now he felt uncomfortable. He went into the bathroom to take care of himself. After that, he got dressed and left. After Bob and I watched the video, we laughed. "Well, he got what he deserved," Bob said. "More than you think, Bob. More than you think," I replied. I took the DVD, thanked Bob, and told him, "Send me the final bill. I won't need your help anymore. I have what I need." I got home around 4 o'clock. Melanie was busy cleaning the house. She changed the sheets and did the laundry. Wow, not much going on at the shelter today. I thought you wouldn't be home until 5 o'clock. I was going to start dinner, she said. So, did you get Bambi? I asked. No, but I saw a male deer trying to chase a female deer. She got angry and ran away, she replied. Well, I'm not sad to hear that, she said. Neither am I. It was fun to watch, I laughed. I'm going downstairs to clean and oil my gun and put it away until next year, she said. You're not going back out this season? You've got 2 weeks left, I asked. No, I'm done. The fun is gone. Maybe next year, she said. I went downstairs and put my gun away. There was no need to clean it since I hadn't even taken it out of the case. I checked my laptop to see if I had any news. I noticed her get ready for work and leave around 8:30. Then she came back at noon. It was either a slow day at the shelter or she had some free time, knowing I wouldn't be home for a while. She made a phone call. I wondered if she was calling Jack. Hi, Mary, she said. I was surprised that she seemed so calm talking to Mary. It made me think that maybe Mary knew something. She listened as Mary spoke. Yeah, it was a slow day, and I couldn't stop thinking about what you said about Jack and his job. I thought to myself, yeah, right. You can't stop thinking about Jack, just like you mean. She listened again. I wished I could hear the other side of the call. No, he's out hunting right now, or at least trying. He doesn't seem worried. Sometimes he doesn't get things, she said. There it was, clueless. Maybe at home, but not here. She listened more. I'll let you know. I'm a little worried myself. Could you have Jack call me? I would like to ask him some questions. He might talk to me more than you. He may not want to worry you. I just want to know what he knows. Yeah, I bet you want him to tell you everything, I said quietly to myself. Okay, I'll call you and let you know what I find out after I talk to him, she said. I felt a little better knowing that Melanie was worried about my job. If I lost it, she would have to find a real job. I felt a bit bad about Mary being anxious about Jack's job, but there was nothing I could do about that. That anxiety would soon turn to anger towards Jack when my plans worked out. About an hour later, Melanie got a call from Jack. Hello? She answered. Yeah, I wanted to hear your voice. I would like something else, she said. Oh, is she there? Then, oh, so you can't talk to me. She continued, she is so clueless, just like Kurt. Well, that answered my question. Mary did not know about her husband's cheating. So what do you know about Kurt's job? Melanie asked. No, he hasn't said anything. Yeah, I can ask him. I'm sure he'll say good things about you. Oh, he's out hunting. Yeah, that's really harsh. Well, I'll talk to you later, dear. Tell Mary I'll call her later. Bye, dear. I was eager for her to ask me to help my old friend Jack. Wouldn't she be shocked if she knew I was behind his troubles? Next week, he might be out of a job. I hope she asks me to help him with his resume. Now that I guessed what she wanted to ask, I couldn't wait. I put my laptop back in its spot and went upstairs. I headed to our bedroom to change my clothes. When I came downstairs, Melanie and KJ were setting the table for dinner, which was pork chops and mashed potatoes. Melanie didn't want to bring up anything that might make KJ worried about my work, so she didn't ask the question I was expecting. I said, "Why don't we go see a movie together?" KJ replied, "I'm going to the mall to meet my friends. Sorry, Dad. You and Mom will have to see a movie by yourselves." "That's fine, KJ. I just wanted to suggest it," I said. "I should get going. I'm meeting them at 7:30, she said. "Have a nice night. Do you need any money?" "Yes, I spoiled her, and I plan to keep doing it. I have some. If I want something, I'll use your credit card if that's okay." "Of course, sweetie." "Thanks, Dad." KJ left the table and soon went out the door. "You really spoil her," Melanie said. "Yes, I do, and I will keep on doing it. Next year, she'll go off to college, and I won't see her much." So I talked to Mary again today. She said Jack came home upset last night. He's worried about his job. Can you say something good about him to your boss? Maybe he can speak to Jack's boss. They've been good friends since they moved here from California. I had to stay calm when I heard that. A good friend wouldn't betray his friend's wife, I thought. I'll talk to Brad on Monday. I didn't say what I would discuss with him. Hopefully Jack would be without a job before Thanksgiving. "So, do you want to go see a movie or not?" I asked. Yeah, but we should go to the discount theater at least until things with your job get better, she replied. Sure, grab your coat. This was my way of spending time with her without having to chat too much. We ended up watching a Cameron Diaz movie, The Other Woman. I smiled. I have liked almost every movie I've seen her in. I can't really explain it, but I feel a connection. Melanie asked what I thought of the movie. I really like movies with Cameron Diaz, I said. Other than that, what did you think? She asked. I think it was a bit hard to believe. I can't see how a woman would become friends with two other women who were involved with her husband. A man would really dislike other men, especially if they knew his wife was married. Even if they didn't know, he would still feel angry. His true frustration would be with his wife. If it was just one guy, and it only happened 1 or 2 times, he might think about forgiving her. But the trust would still be broken. He would always wonder who she was with when she was late, or when she had to work late, or when it was a night out with friends. He would even worry if she had to go away for work. She stayed quiet for a moment. What they did to him was funny, though, right? I thought maybe she was trying to change the topic. Yeah, what happened was probably fair. I think the cheater got what he deserved. On Sunday morning, it was just KJ and me getting ready for church again. Melanie chose not to go once more. We had a good time together anyway. I have to admit I didn't focus on the sermon. My mind was elsewhere. After the service, KJ asked me, "Are you okay, Dad? You didn't seem to pay attention at all." "I've got a lot on my mind, KJ," I said, not telling her the full truth. "There are some things happening at work that worry me. I might have to travel a bit for work in the next few weeks." "Well, I hope it's nothing serious. I know you love that job." "Don't worry about it, KJ. Just enjoy your senior year and keep your grades up if you want to get into Cornell University." When we got back from church, dinner was ready, grilled salmon and all the sides. We ate, and KJ and Melanie did most of the talking. I didn't say much because I just wasn't in the mood. "Are you okay, honey?" Melanie asked, noticing I was quiet. "Yeah, just thinking about work and what I need to do," I replied. "Maybe you should put together a resume," she suggested. "I don't really have much for a resume, just one job," I said. "But you do so much there," she replied. "Yeah, I guess so." After we finished eating, I put my dishes in the dishwasher and decided to rake the leaves again. I love the outdoors, but it can be a lot of work. I think my next home will be a condo where someone else can take care of the leaves. I went upstairs and changed into my Cornell College sweats, hoping it might remind Melanie of the happy times we had when we were younger. Maybe it would make her feel a little guilty about what she was doing to us. If she came to me now, would I be able to forgive her and stay married? I just didn't know. One thought kept hitting me. Why is she so close with Jack while I have to keep asking for her attention? I haven't felt close to her since August. I went outside and raked leaves. It gave me time to think. If she came to me before Thanksgiving, I would forgive her. But things would need to change. I would want to know why this happened. Our relationship would need to change a lot, and she would have to work hard to earn my trust back. After a few hours, I had piled up another 15 bags of leaves by the curb. I went back inside and headed up to my room to change. Melanie called out to me. "I'm heading to the store. Do you need anything?" I whispered to myself. "Just a good wife." I replied, "No thanks," back to her. After she left, I went to the basement to check my laptop. I could hear Melanie talking on the phone. "Hi, Jack. How are you today?" "Just thinking about you." "Oh, yes, definitely that and more." "Yes, they are at church." "No, they'll be back soon. No time for that." "I miss you too." "How are you doing? Are you really worried?" "No, Kurt doesn't seem worried. I can't help but worry, though. I don't know what we'd do if he lost his job. So, what's your plan?" "That sounds good. I'll encourage Kurt to make a resume, but it will just list one job, which might not be enough." "Yes, I'll have him list you as a reference. I think I hear the garage door. I'll talk to you later. Bye." So, Jack was worried about his job, but he still had time to think about my wife. Was my marriage finished? Had we come to the end? Almost 20 years wasted with nothing to show for it. No, that wasn't true. Our daughter KJ was our proof. Just thinking about her made it feel worth it. On Monday morning, I was in the office talking to some women who work with our sales staff. I asked, "Have you met the new salesperson from ABC Dye?" They all said yes and seemed to like him. A few mentioned they were happy we got a new one because the last one made them uneasy. I told them to report anything inappropriate from Mr. Anderson to Brad and to not hesitate to speak up in the future. Later, I called the bank and learned I needed to sign some papers. In 3 weeks, I would get my equity loan approved. I was surprised by how much my house was worth, even in this slow housing market. I had bought it during a past slow market, so I still had good equity. Later that morning, I asked to see Brad again. He said, "Come right in, Kurt." "Thanks, Brad." "So, how are things at home?" "Not better," I replied. "Well, I need to tell you that some of the office women came to me first thing today. They were relieved they wouldn't have to see Mr. Anderson anymore. They mentioned some things he said that made them uncomfortable. I told them to let me know right away if anyone makes them feel that way in the future." "I'm sorry they had to deal with that," I said. "We won't have to worry anymore. I called the owner and told him, and he said Mr. Anderson would be let go today. I even said we might have more work for him soon." I smiled a little at that. I really didn't want to hurt Mary, but she was already suffering because of her husband, even if she didn't know it. "Hey, Brad, can we talk about my job?" I asked. "Are you quitting?" he replied, looking shocked. "I want to transfer to the plant in London, Ontario, or maybe the one in New Jersey. Ontario is my first choice. Once my divorce is finished, I'd be glad to move back if you want me." "Kurt, I think I can make that happen. I just want you back here as soon as possible. I picked London because I wasn't sure if I would need to pay alimony. It might be harder for Mary to claim it if I was in another country. Also, Brad, I want my last day to be December 15th. I have 4 weeks of vacation and 10 personal days I'd like to use then. I want the court to see that I'm not working. Please don't do anything wrong. If I need to be fired and then hired again in London, I'm okay with that. I might lose my seniority, but that's fine. Melanie would need to find a job again. After 18 years, I wasn't sure if her degree would help her. Things have changed a lot in human resources. This would be payback for everything, the chlamydia and the divorce. Now, who is really clueless? When I got back to my office, I called Ben in New Jersey to ask about Cornell University. He said it was already in the works and she should get her acceptance letter in a couple of weeks. Great. One more thing off my list. I called Cornell's office and asked for the Dean of Admissions. They connected me right away. I told him my daughter wanted to go there and asked if I could pay her tuition, room, board, and book costs in advance. He sounded pleased and said, "Sure, once she is accepted, we can calculate the total for you." I thanked him and gave my contact details. Another task done. I decided to wait to tell Brad about my Thanksgiving plans. I might use that time to visit the plant and look for a place to live. I called my lawyer and told him that if I went through with the divorce, I wanted Mary to be served on December 20th in the afternoon at my house. I wondered if I could be that specific. I knew it was a Saturday and I would pay extra if needed. He assured me they could do that if I let him know a week ahead. Then I called a florist. I needed to know if I could have a delivery on December 20th at a certain time. "Can you guarantee that?" I asked. "Yes, we can do that. We just need the address and at least 3 days' notice. There will be an extra charge because it will be a special delivery." "That's fine," I said, telling them I would call at the start of that week if I decided to go ahead. I was still unsure if I could go back. Could we make things right? Thanksgiving weekend would be the time to decide. I asked, "If I want 17 red roses and 1 black rose, how much time do you need to prepare them?" "Just a week," they said. "If I want them in a box that is 8.5 by 11, can you do that?" They explained that wasn't a usual flower box, but they could use a box that holds a ream of paper and dress it up so it didn't look like a paper box if that worked for me. "Sure, thank you. I'll call you next month with all the details." That was one thing off my list. I had to wait until December 20th to send the DVD to Mary. On Christmas Day, I planned to email Jack a picture of himself with the other person and hope he liked his surprise. For Melanie, I wanted to create a photo album filled with good memories of our time together. I know I might sound mean, but I wanted her to feel the weight of what she had lost. I should talk to KJ about visiting Cornell University to check out the campus. I knew she would miss her grandparents, but if I was right, they would be busy with Melanie. I needed to tell KJ that we were leaving at 4 o'clock on December 20th, but not to mention it to her mom. I guess I should wait until after Thanksgiving to tell her. That weekend would be a big test for our marriage. Would it be a chance to rebuild, or would it tear us apart? At lunch, I spoke to Brad again and asked if I could leave for the rest of the day. He said, "Sure, see you in the morning." I would really miss working with him. I hoped I could come back to work with him soon. When I got home, Melanie wasn't there. I wondered if she was at work or with someone else. I went downstairs to check the computer. There were no calls logged, so maybe she really was at work. I decided now was a good time to sort through my things, the stuff we all keep thinking we might need someday. I started with the filing cabinet. She wouldn't notice if I went through all the old tax papers and manuals for things we no longer used. I managed to clear out almost 3 drawers of junk. I put off the important papers like house papers, major appliances, and medical bills. I would look at those later. A lot of that would go into the memory photo album for Melanie. I was clearing out almost 20 years of marriage and tossing it all away. Next, I found shoeboxes filled with our photos, at least the ones from before we had digital cameras. I placed them in the filing cabinet so they would all be together when I started that project. I would also need to go through the photos on our computer and print copies, or I could download them and have a shop print them on nice paper. I wanted to make this look good, right? So I decided to go to the garage and sort out my tools. I figured Melanie wouldn't even notice. I packed the tools in boxes and put them in the basement. When it was time to move my things, I would have to carry them up the stairs, out of the garage, and to my car. At around 4:30, I thought it would be nice to grill some steaks. It was cold outside, but I love steak fresh from the grill. I also cooked some corn on the cob and asparagus. I put 3 potatoes in the oven to bake, and by 5:30 both Melanie and KJ were home. "You made dinner? What time did you get home?" Melanie asked me. "It was slow at work, so I left early," I replied. I knew this would make Melanie worry more. We sat down to eat, and Melanie said, "I got a call from Mary. Jack lost his job today." Lost his job? More like got fired, I thought. That's really bad. What will he do now? I said. He needs to send out his resume and look for another job, she replied. Good thing Mary has a job, I said, wanting to kick up her anxiety a little more. Are you sure your company is okay? You said it was slow, she asked, looking worried. As far as I know, we're fine, I said. We finished dinner with KJ sharing what was happening in her life. Just typical teenage stuff, but I liked listening to her. I would miss that when I was gone. I planned to call her often. The next few days passed without any changes and, yes, no intimacy. That was fine since I didn't want to take any chances. It was Thursday, 1 week before Thanksgiving. Melanie, KJ, and I were having dinner together. KJ said, Mom, Dad. Yes, Kaylee? Melanie replied. Kelly asked me if I could go with her family for a ski trip to Colorado over Thanksgiving weekend. When would you leave? I asked. She looked shy and said, Wednesday afternoon, right after the half-day at school. Melanie, are your parents coming up for Thanksgiving this year? No, they are just coming the Saturday before Christmas and will stay for a week, she replied. Well, my parents will be spending time with my youngest brother and his new baby. So it's okay for me if it's all right with your mom, I said. Mom, is it okay? KJ asked. Yeah, I suppose. Your dad and I will just have Thanksgiving by ourselves. It will be good practice for when you leave for college next fall, Melanie said. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. I'll call Kelly and tell her after dinner, KJ said happily. I guess we'll have to get used to being on our own, Melanie, I said, looking at my wife. She didn't know how alone she might be next year if she didn't speak up soon. But I wondered if Mary would divorce Jack. If she did, maybe Melanie would end up with Jack. The rest of dinner was filled with KJ talking about their plans for the trip, where they would stay, and what they would do. Sometimes women can talk a lot without anyone else saying anything. It sounded fun, though. It made me think about how I hadn't visited the Capitol building in Colorado yet. I needed to start working on my own goals. The next morning, I made a plan to talk to Brad. He was someone I could trust. I walked into his office at 2 o'clock. Brad, I want to discuss Thanksgiving weekend. Are you and your family going somewhere? Do you need a few extra days off? He asked. No, it's the opposite. KJ is going skiing in Colorado for the weekend with some friends and family. I want to give Melanie enough space to mess up, but not for real. I'd like to have an emergency at the New Jersey plant that takes me away from Thursday evening to Monday afternoon. That should be plenty of time for her and Jack to meet up. I think it will be at my house, so I'll have proof. Wow, you really think you two can't work this out? He said. If she tells the truth before Thanksgiving, there's a chance. If not, and if she does what I think she will, then it will be all over but the crying. I said this in a joking way, but it was more true than I wanted to admit. So what do you need from me? Brad asked. I need you to call me on Thanksgiving afternoon and tell me I have a flight at 7 p.m. I'll make sure Melanie answers the phone so she will think it's real. Okay, I can do that. What if she tells the truth before then? I'll say I can't go, that I have a wife I need to be with. That would be the truth, I thought to myself. If she did come clean, it would take all weekend to sort things out. As I drove home for the weekend, part of me hoped she would tell the truth. I really loved her, and didn't want to lose what we once had. I thought about it all, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I wasn't very talkative, to say the least. On Sunday night, I suggested to KJ and Melanie that since KJ would be gone on Wednesday, we should all go out to dinner on Tuesday evening. That sounds like a great idea, KJ said. I felt a bit bad about missing Thanksgiving. I'll try to get a reservation at the Lark, I said. It was a nice restaurant in West Bloomfield. A man facing his last meal gets to enjoy it, right? Doesn't a troubled marriage deserve the same? On Monday, I called the restaurant early and was told they had an opening. The hostess said that Wednesday night was full, but tomorrow at 7:30 was free. I texted Melanie and KJ to let them know we were set for 7:30 tomorrow night. I got a quick reply from KJ, but Melanie didn't message back until around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I wondered what she had been up to. Now that Jack didn't have a job, I could guess what was coming. On Monday night, Melanie asked if Jack could list me as a reference on his job application. Sure, I'll take calls from his future employers, I said. She quickly replied, Mary would really appreciate that. I looked forward to those calls. I was ready to share my thoughts on what a player he is. On Tuesday night, we had a nice dinner. Melanie checked the menu and asked, Can we afford this? Of course, I earn good money. It's okay to treat ourselves sometimes, I said. We spent an hour talking about good times, vacations, KJ's sports, and school. It felt nice to remember the past. If this didn't push Melanie to be honest, I wasn't sure what would. When we got home, KJ finished packing. I took everything over to Kelly's place so they could leave right after school. I thanked Mr. Baranz for taking KJ with them. Can I pay for her stay? I asked. She's sharing a room with Kelly. No extra cost. We wouldn't dream of taking your money. It's our gift, he replied. Well, thank you. I hope to return the favor someday, I said. Don't even think about it, he said sincerely. On the way home, I gave KJ a couple $100 and told her to call me when she got back so I could pick her up. I had some news to share then. She was curious and said, Tell me now. No, you'll find out when you're back. Just promise to call me, I reminded her. Okay, Dad. Thanks, KJ. You're a wonderful daughter. Just behave while you're in Colorado. I will, Dad. I know you will. Then she said something that showed how smart she was. I hope whatever has been troubling you gets better soon. She kissed me on the cheek. We parked the car in our garage, got out, and she went to bed. I stayed up a bit longer just thinking. When I finally went to bed, Melanie was already asleep. I was glad she could rest. I, on the other hand, would struggle to sleep again. Wednesday at work felt like every other office the day before Thanksgiving. Work was slow. Everyone wanted to start their long weekend early. Half the office left by noon. Since I was in support, I stayed until 4 o'clock. I got home before Melanie, so I went to check the laptop. Mary had come over to talk to her about Jack. She was upset that Jack was feeling down and didn't want to do anything, not even be close to her. A job means a lot to a man. His self-worth comes from it. He'll be fine once he finds another job, I heard Melanie say. Did you talk to Kurt about helping him? Mary asked. He said he would give him a reference. That should help, Melanie replied. They talked more, but I wasn't really listening. I was thinking about how Melanie could sit there and comfort Mary while hiding that she was with Jack. Later, I got a call from Jack. Oh, hi, Jack. Yeah, Mary came over to talk. She doesn't know what's going on, just like Kurt. Kaylee will be away until Sunday. I'll try to meet up with you this weekend. I think Kurt will need to go to the office for a while, like he always does. I'll text you when I know more. Talk to you later. I'll give you all the time you need, I said to myself. On Thanksgiving, we made a nice lunch. It wasn't too big, but it was good. We had turkey, sweet potatoes, stuffing, cranberry sauce, and pumpkin pie. Around 2 o'clock, Brad called. I let Melanie answer the phone because it was on the kitchen counter. "Hello, this is Kurt's phone." "Oh, hi, Mr. Bilson. Sure, I'll get him. He's just in the other room." "Hi, Brad. How are you on this Thanksgiving Day?" "Well, here's your call. My wife thought it was strange to bother you on Thanksgiving. So what's up?" "You need me in New Jersey?" I said a bit loudly. "Tonight? Really, on Thanksgiving? 7 o'clock at Detroit Metro? Yeah, I'll be there." "Honey, Brad needs me to fly to New Jersey tonight. They're having some issues and their boss is on vacation." "Why do they need you to leave tonight?" she asked. "They have an order to fill by Monday morning. They'll work this weekend to get it ready by Sunday night. I need to make sure everything is there for Monday morning. I've also got to be at the GM plant to check that the parts are right for the customer. It's called just-in-time inventory. If they stop working because we don't have our parts, we could lose a lot of money. That's just how it is with car companies." "I need to get ready to go. I have to be at the airport by 5 o'clock, I said as I rushed down the stairs to get my suitcase. I grabbed my suitcase and checked my laptop to ensure it was ready. I hid it well, then went back upstairs. "Do you know where my toiletry kit is?" I asked Melanie. "Last I saw it, it was in the linen closet behind the shampoo," she replied. "Thanks, honey. What would I do without you?" I said, hiding my sarcasm. I headed upstairs with my suitcase. I put out both nice clothes, business casual, and clothes I could get dirty. Melanie knew I often got messy at work. I took my underwear, socks, shoes, shorts, swimming trunks for the hotel, t-shirts, and workout clothes. I also packed a suit, thinking I might need it for a few days. Melanie walked in and saw all the clothes on the bed. "Do you really need all those clothes?" "I never know what I'll need. They might want me to meet with the GM executives," I explained. "I can't believe you have to leave on Thanksgiving. I need to be at the plant at 6 in the morning. I'd rather not have to catch a flight at 2 in the morning." "Well, I'll miss you," she said. I turned to look at her. The words sounded nice, but her face didn't match them. If Melanie did what I thought she would, I guessed those were just words. I threw my suitcase in the trunk of the car. Then, I went back inside and asked Melanie if she wanted to drive me or if I should park my car long-term. "If you drive me, you'll have to pick me up Monday afternoon," I said. She thought for a moment. I could tell she was thinking, I don't like driving in Detroit traffic, especially to the airport. But if I drive him, he won't have a car and can't come home anytime he wants. "I'll drive you, honey. It's Thanksgiving. I'll miss you when you're gone. This will give me a little more time with you." Wow, she was really sweet, I thought. "Okay. We should leave in about an hour. What do you want to do until then?" I looked at her expectantly. "We don't have time for that," she replied. "Maybe when you get back. Or maybe not," I thought to myself. "All right, let's just relax," I said as I grabbed a beer from the fridge. I sat down on the couch and took a sip. She grabbed one too and sat in the chair across from me. "I'm sorry I have to leave, honey, but it's important," I said. "I know, sweetie. I'll just be alone all weekend." "Call Mary. Go see a movie or something. She probably needs to forget about Jack losing his job. Tell her you'll buy dinner." "Yeah, I might do that." She paused. "Are you going to help at the shelter again this Saturday?" "Yes, they have a big push for adoptions until the end of the year." "That takes care of Saturday then. Are you going Black Friday shopping tomorrow morning?" "No, I don't really want to deal with the chaos," she said. "Then curl up with a good book," I suggested. "Yeah, I'll keep busy," she said. I believed she would. On the drive to the airport, we made small talk. "Just drop me off in front, honey," I said. She pulled to the curb. I got out, took my suitcase and garment bag from the trunk and closed it. I walked around to the driver's side. She hadn't even gotten out to give me a goodbye hug. I kissed her quickly and said, "I'll call you when I get to my hotel." "Okay, have a safe trip," she replied. She slowly drove away. I wondered if she noticed we didn't say, "I love you." I walked into the terminal and waited in the lobby for about 10 minutes to see if she would come back, but she didn't. I went to the car rental desk and rented a car for 4 days. The prices were high, but I had no choice. I got the car, put my luggage inside, and drove to a hotel not too far from home. I wanted to watch over the house, see when she left, who came over. I couldn't sit outside all day, so I planned to drive by now and then. The rental car looked like any other car. I didn't want to attract attention. I drove by around 9 p.m. There were no cars outside and the lights were on. I noticed that the TV was playing inside. I guess Jack couldn't leave his wife, child, and family on Thanksgiving. Maybe tomorrow, though. I went back to my hotel and waited until 10 o'clock to call Melanie. "Hey, I just got in. I'm going to bed now because I have to be at the plant by 6 o'clock. "Okay, sweetie, thanks for calling. I miss you," she replied. "I miss you too," I said. I really did miss her. The woman I fell in love with and married, not the person she had become. On Friday morning, I slept in. I woke up at 9:30 feeling well-rested for the first time in weeks. I got up, took a shower, and put on my jeans, a sweatshirt, and a baseball cap. Around 10:15, I drove by the house. There was Jack's car, but it could be Mary's. I decided to go to the bank where she works to check if she was there. Just see if her car is there, I thought. And it was. That was it. Tomorrow, while Melanie is at her work, I'll sneak in and get proof. I spent the day driving around Detroit. The city had its problems, but some helpful people were putting money back into it. It was slowly coming back. I would miss this place, even with all its faults. That evening, I didn't call Melanie. If she wanted to talk, she could reach out to me. But she didn't. Saturday morning, I had breakfast at a Denny's far from my house so nobody would see me. After that, I drove back home, parked around the corner, and quietly walked into the backyard. I hoped no one saw me. I checked the garage to make sure her car was gone. It was. I slipped into the basement and checked the laptop. There it was, 3 videos from the bedroom from the day before. I downloaded the file onto a zip drive and hurried back to my car. I would watch the file when I got to the motel. Then it hit me. How would I watch it without a computer? So I drove toward work. It was past noon, and the place was empty. I opened the door with my key, went inside, and locked it behind me. Then I went to my office. I started my computer, plugged in the zip drive, and opened the file. The first thing I saw was my wife walking in wearing a teddy. The teddy I had bought for her on our 15th anniversary, which she had never worn for me. Anger boiled inside me. Jack was taking off his clothes quickly. "Wow, you look great in that. Did you buy it for me?" he said. "No. Kurt bought it for me a couple of years ago, but I have never worn it," she replied. "Why not?" Jack asked. "Because I don't like being intimate with Kurt." Jack looked confused. "But I do like being intimate with you," she said. That hit me hard. What was wrong with our intimacy? I remembered when we were first dating. She was wild. Our honeymoon was all about us. We ordered room service for almost every meal. Even the first year, we were intimate every day, sometimes more than once. Even when she was pregnant, we were always at it. But after KJ was born, everything changed. I know having a new baby takes up a lot of your time, and all you want to do is rest when you can. But when KJ was finally on a regular sleep schedule, I felt like things never got better. I started to wonder what I had done to make her not want to be close to me anymore. When I looked at the screen, I saw something I didn't expect. They were together. He was on top of her and moving quickly. "Doesn't he treat you like this?" he asked. "Never," she replied loudly. Then he turned her over, putting her on her hands and knees. I had seen this before with someone else he was with. He was being rough with her, and she was moaning and crying out, "Harder! Harder!" And he did. She let out a loud cry. I hadn't heard that from her in years. Maybe I wasn't doing enough. He slowed down and started to touch her in a way that made her respond. "Oh yeah," she said. "Let me get something." She reached for a bottle from the nightstand. It was half full. They must have done this before. She put some on her finger and touched herself. "Okay, I'm ready," she said. I couldn't believe what I saw. I had 3 different views of her. I didn't want to watch anymore. I paused the playback, printed out 2 copies of all the views, and closed the program. I took out the USB drive and collected the pictures from the printer. I knew Mary would be interested in these pictures. I left my office and looked around the factory. I would talk to Brad on Monday about moving to a new place. I would miss this factory. It had been a part of my life for so long. As I walked outside, I thought about Melanie. She didn't want to be close to me, but she wanted him to treat her like she was nothing. I wasn't sure how to deal with that. I went to the hotel and sat in the dark for a while. After an hour, I went to a store and bought a case of beer. When I got back to the hotel, I just started drinking. I woke up on Sunday with empty beer cans all around me. I had a terrible headache. I got up, used the bathroom, and drank some water before going back to bed. I woke up again and saw it was 2 p.m. I needed to shower. I felt disgusting. I took a long shower and shaved. I looked much better, but still felt horrible inside. My marriage was not what I thought it was. The only good thing in my life was KJ would call me soon. I needed to grab some food. I hadn't eaten since Denny's the day before. I went back there again, not wanting anyone to see me. I needed to stay hidden for just one more day. I had to think of other plans, too. By now, Melanie might have chlamydia. Was that enough revenge? Well, I had divorce on my mind as well. As I ate my food, I realized how hungry I was. I wanted to end my marriage in a way that would hit her hard. I would tell her I wanted to celebrate Christmas with just the three of us on Saturday before her parents arrived. This way, we could enjoy the holiday together without anyone else getting in the way. I wanted to create a scrapbook filled with memories from our years together. The last picture would come in a box with 17 red roses and 1 black rose. 17 years of a good marriage and 1 year of bad. Inside the box with the roses, I'd include a collage of pictures from this weekend. Then, I'd serve her the divorce papers. If I timed it well, her parents would come just as I was leaving. I wondered how she would tell them. While I was making these plans, KJ called. "Hi, KJ," I said. "Hi, Dad. Mom said you had to go out of town when I spoke to her last night. Should I call her to come pick me up?" she asked. "No, sweetie, I'll pick you up." "Are you at the airport or at the Barrens?" I replied. "I just got off the plane. I'm waiting for my luggage. What's going on, Dad?" "I'll explain everything when I get you. Don't tell your mom anything, okay? Just trust me." "You know I trust you, Dad." "Okay, I'll be there in about half an hour." "Sure, text me when you're here and I'll come out." I picked her up at the curb. She looked worried. "Okay, what's wrong?" "Your mom doesn't know it yet, but we're getting a divorce," I told her. "What?" she exclaimed. "KJ, remember before you left when you said I hadn't been right for about a month? You really noticed things?" "Are you sick?" she asked with concern. "No, KJ, I'm not sick, but it hurts me to tell you this. We'll get through this together. On Halloween, I finally found out that your mom has been unfaithful." "What?" "Yes. It's been going on since at least July 4th. I have proof, but let's just say I can't stay with her. She has done things that made it impossible for me to keep my dignity. However, I need you to pretend with me until December 20th. That's when I will tell her. Grandma and Grandpa will be here then, so they can help her cope. Do you think you can do that?" "Well, I'm not home much anyway, so I guess I can play along. Are you sure you can't work things out?" "No, sweetie. I'm so sorry to put this on you like this, but I thought you deserved the truth. I felt something was wrong with you, but I thought it was about work. I'm so sorry, Dad." "Does she know you know?" "No, she thinks I have no idea. I was feeling pretty bad until Halloween. That's why I said I had a migraine, making quotation marks with my fingers." "Who is it? Is it someone I know?" she asked. "Well, I guess it will come out anyway, but you have to promise not to say anything or hint at it, okay?" "Sure, Dad." "It's Jack Anderson." "Wow. Does Mrs. Anderson know yet?" "Not yet," I replied. "Wow. Jasmine is going to be really upset. She thinks the world of her dad." "Well, of course she does, KJ." "No, Dad. She is really obsessed with him. That's part of why she's going to Wayne State. She wants to stay at home with him." "I didn't know that. This will probably hurt her a lot. You need to help her through this," I said. "I don't think she'll want my help, Dad. It's my mom he's with." "Oh, right. Well, maybe Mr. Anderson and your mom care about each other," I said. "I'm going to have her served just after our Christmas together," I told her. "Wow, that's kind of mean, Dad." "I know, KJ, but I want to do this before the year ends. I need to do it for my pride, too." There was a long pause. "Now, I have some good news," I said with a smile. "How can there be good news? I could really use some after that bad news," she said. "You're going to get a letter saying you're accepted to Cornell in the next 2 weeks." "What? Are you sure?" "Your old man has some connections. I didn't get you in, you did that yourself. I just heard about it early, and I've already arranged to pay for 4 years of tuition, room and board, books, and other costs." "How can you do all that?" she asked. "That's where my connections come in. Don't worry about anything, KJ. I have it all sorted out. Just focus on getting good grades and pick something you'll love to do. I told you I want to be an engineer just like you, Dad. Now who's obsessed with her dad? I joked. Oh, Dad, I love you. Okay, hold on to this happy feeling for the next 3 weeks. Don't let your mom think anything is wrong, I said firmly. By the way, would it be too much if I took you to see the campus on December 20th? You'd miss some time with your grandparents. That sounds great, Dad. I don't think I want to be around Mom when you tell her the news anyway. I didn't want Melanie to see me, so I parked my rental car at the end of the driveway. KJ got out, took her things, and ran to the house as I pulled away. Melanie greeted her with a hug. KJ played her part really well. Did all women deserve awards? I felt like Melanie pulled one over on me. On Monday, I checked out of my room. Then I spoke with the lawyer. Everything was set. The papers would be delivered on the 20th. I called the florist and asked for delivery on the same day. They told me it was already on their calendar. I told them that I wanted to put a picture on the lid of the box and asked if I could come by in the afternoon the day before to check on things. I imagined having 17 roses in a circle with a black rose open in the middle. The card would say, 17 good, 1 bad. Look under the lid. I could not wait to see her face when she opened it. Maybe I could set up a camera by the front door to record it. I needed to find out when her parents were flying in so I could plan the timing with the florist and the process server. I figured I should add an hour after their flight lands. That should give them enough time to get their bags, pick up a rental car, and drive to our house. That afternoon, I returned the rental car and texted Melanie. She replied, "Okay, I'll leave now to come get you." I wondered if she would mention that I hadn't called since Thursday night. She could have reached out to me too. I didn't feel bad about it. On the way home, I asked, "Can we just get Chinese food for dinner, or did you already plan something?" "Chinese is fine. That should be good for Kaylee. She has some exciting news for you," she said. "What is it?" I asked. "I'll let her tell you," she replied. "I can't wait," I said. We picked up Chinese and got home by 6:30. I walked in the door and KJ almost knocked me over. "Whoa, KJ, you can't greet your dad like that. You're not old, Dad. You're just 40. Then why did I get surprised at the door?" I laughed. "I got in. I got my acceptance letter today. Cornell!" she shouted. "That's amazing, KJ. You'll be going to our school," I said, looking at Melanie. "No, Dad. Cornell University." I was shocked. "Wow! They are one of the top engineering schools in the Northeast. When you said you were applying to Cornell, I thought you meant our Cornell." I glanced at Melanie again. Now I feel kind of silly getting Chinese for a celebration dinner. "Oh, Dad, you know I love Chinese," KJ said. For some reason, I thought of a Monty Python joke. Funny how the mind works sometimes. KJ's joy made my night much better. I'd been worried about spending the evening with my soon-to-be ex-wife. KJ clearly wanted to keep things cheerful. I really appreciate the wonderful person my daughter is becoming. I have to credit most of that to Melanie. She was the one who raised her. At 8:30, I said goodnight. I was tired and went to bed. At 10 o'clock, Melanie climbed into bed and accidentally woke me. I grunted and turned onto my stomach, wondering if she felt bad about it. Thankfully, the rest of the week went back to normal. There was no change from either of us. It had been almost 4 months. I could last 2.5 more weeks. On Tuesday, I went to work and talked with Brad. I wanted to take some vacation time. "Today and tomorrow," I said. "I have a lot to do." He replied, "Okay, let me know if you need help." I went home and took out all the photos and cards. I had birthday, Christmas, and anniversary cards, as well as baby pictures and even hospital bills. I thought these would make a nice Christmas gift for Melanie. She could enjoy the good memories. Then, I would surprise her with flowers and a collage picture, along with the divorce papers. The first thing in the photo album would be the receipt from the jewelry store. $4,000 was a lot of money back then, and it still is. But it feels different now. Next, I wanted to add honeymoon pictures. We went to Niagara Falls, but we didn't take many pictures because we mostly stayed in our hotel room. Maybe KJ and I will go there and visit Canada someday. Melanie won't be with us then. Next in the album would be a photo of our first apartment. We didn't stay there long since we had to buy a house when we found out we were having KJ. Then I had pictures from our first vacation. We drove to California to see her family. It was a long trip, but I enjoyed being with my new wife. We stopped at the Grand Canyon, saw the lights of Las Vegas, drove through Death Valley, and finally reached her parents' house 4 days later. They were flying in on December 20th this year, just in time for the surprise from this photo album. I remembered that first vacation. Somewhere along the journey across America, we made KJ. It was such a great trip. I wished I could go back to that time when we were happy together. Next, I wanted to include pictures of Melanie during her pregnancy. She was small, but she had a big belly. I loved seeing her like that. She was so loving and needed me, and I cherished every moment. She was having our baby. I also wanted to add the hospital bill. Our insurance covered most of it, but we had some extra costs. I didn't mind. It was worth it to bring our baby into the world. As I looked at the bills, I noticed there were many expenses. Then I saw something that shocked me. There was a charge for a tubal ligation on a separate bill dated August 8th. That was a month before KJ was born. Why? Who asked for it? What happened? I had to find out. I couldn't go to the doctor to ask. She had passed away in a car crash 15 years ago. Who could help me? There were 2 other doctors in her office. Maybe one of them could explain this. I took the bill, got in my car, and drove to the OB/GYN office. Melanie still went to the same place even after her doctor had died. I walked in calmly and asked to speak with the person who handled billing. An older woman, around 60, came out to talk to me. I asked if we could look at some old bills. "Sure," she said. "Let me get your wife's file. They should all be in there. First, I need to check if you are allowed to see them." "Can I see your driver's license?" I showed it to her, and she found the paper that let me see my wife's medical details. We had signed forms for each other because of privacy laws. Thankfully, we were prepared just in case there was a problem. But this seemed like a big problem. "Can we look at the bills from when she had Kaylee Jane?" I asked. "Of course," she replied. "Those will be at the back of the file. We put the newer ones in front." She found the bills for the delivery. I explained. After about 10 hours of labor, they decided to do a C-section. She hadn't turned yet, so they were worried. That's what they told me while I waited. The billing nurse looked through the bills and suddenly gasped. "What did you find?" I asked. "Well, Mr. Van Hall, you should talk to your wife about this," she replied. "Let me see the papers. I have the right to see them, and you must make copies for me if I ask." I took the papers from her. There it was. The C-section and the operation to prevent future pregnancies were planned a month before. It was done because my wife asked for it. "I need copies of all this paperwork. I will come back in 2 hours to get them," I said as I stood up to leave. "Okay, sir. I'll have them ready for you." I couldn't believe it. For over 17 years, it had been a lie. She knew I wanted another baby. I wanted a boy, but I would love a girl just as much. She took that chance away from me. I was furious. I didn't want to drive in my anger. I might do something I'd regret. So I started walking. I checked the time. I needed to be back by 4:30 to pick up the copies. I wandered around while I tried to think. I lost track of time, but at 4:30, I returned for the copies. They had them ready in a manila envelope at the front desk. I drove home and went straight to the basement. I knew I couldn't be around Melanie right now. I was too angry. I needed space. I decided to go back to the hotel and keep to myself for the next week. I'd work during the day, then head back to the hotel. I went upstairs with a suitcase. Melanie was in the kitchen. She had just come home. "Honey," I said, "I'll be on the road for the next week. The owners want me to check on the other plants and visit customers who have had problems in the last 6 months. So I guess Jack was right. There are issues at your job." "I told you so," she said with a smirk. I went upstairs. If I said anything, I might explode. I had to get out of there. I packed as much clothing as I could into my suitcase. I could buy new socks and underwear later. I grabbed my toiletries and zipped up the suitcase. I walked downstairs and KJ was just getting home. "KJ," I said, "I'm going to be away for about a week. If you need anything, just call me." She looked at me and could see that I was upset. "We'll miss you, Dad, but I know you'll figure things out." "Thanks, sweetheart," I said as I hugged her. I remembered I had some photos and papers to get, so I said, "Oh, I need to go downstairs to get my bag." I went downstairs, packed all the photos and papers into my bag, and tucked away my laptop. I returned to KJ and told Melanie, I need to be at the airport by 7. I'll leave my car in long-term parking. I'll call you when I arrive at the hotel. Then I stepped out the front door. I drove into Detroit and booked a room at an extended stay America. It was a nice room with a little kitchen. I could stay here for a week. I put my clothes away and sat in the chair. I felt like my whole life was falling apart. Just a month ago, I was happy and had no idea what was coming. I sat there for a long time. Melanie had planned the C-section to hide the fact that she had a tubal ligation. She had prepared this at least a month ahead. She pretended to have contractions so she could be in the hospital on the day she had picked for the C-section. They made me wait in the waiting room for hours. They wouldn't let me go in. I couldn't believe it. I felt so clueless. Should I go home and confront Melanie? I knew that if I did, I might lose control. I've never hit a woman before, but I didn't know how I would react. I was very angry. I needed to calm down. I needed to stick to my plan. At least for this week, I wouldn't have to see her. I needed to talk to Brad first thing in the morning. I wanted him to call the plant manager in London. I thought I would like to visit that facility. I wanted to get out of the country. I didn't want Melanie to find me. My phone rang. I saw it was KJ calling. I also noticed it was almost 10 o'clock. Wow, I had been sitting there for almost 4 hours. I answered the phone. Hello, KJ. I'm sorry I had to leave so quickly. What happened, Dad? I could tell you were mad. You didn't even hug Mom or wait for her to say anything. It's worse than I thought, KJ. Where are you? Can she hear you? No, Dad. I told her I had to go to Kelly's to pick up something I forgot. I'm in the car at the park. Where are you? I'm at a hotel downtown close to work. So you're not going out of town? She asked. No, honey. I just needed to get away from her. What happened? She wanted to know. I was going through the old photos and paperwork from our marriage and found the hospital bills from your birth. I was going to include them in the photo album for her Christmas gift. I was going through some papers and discovered that your mom had chosen to have a C-section for your birth and also decided to have her tubes tied. Because of this, I never got to have another baby, whether it was a boy or a girl. Oh, Dad, I'm really sorry. Maybe you should forget about Christmas plans and just talk to her now and get it over with. I can't come home now, KJ. If I did, I might really lose my temper. I'm that angry. I need a few days to calm down. I'm sorry, Dad. I wish I could help. What you can do is act like everything is fine. I know it won't be easy, but please don't say or do anything that would make her suspicious. I need this to surprise her. I'm sorry for putting you in the middle of this. You know, KJ, that we both love you. This isn't about you. I'm really sorry. So what will you do for the next week? Are you just going to work like nothing is happening? I will go to work tomorrow and talk to my boss. He knows what's going on. I'll probably take some time off and visit some of our other offices. I may want to transfer. You can't tell your mom anything. She needs to think I got fired. Oh, Dad, I can't believe you're leaving me. KJ, I'm not leaving you, and I'm not leaving right away. This will take some time. You know you can call me and talk every night if you want. It won't be the same, Dad. No, it won't. But we'll make it work. I love you, KJ. I love you too, Dad. Well, you should get home now. Please try not to make your mom worry. Okay, Dad. I'll call you tomorrow night. Bye, honey. I hung up with tears in my eyes. The next morning, I went to work to talk to Brad. I wanted to tell him what I had found out. I also asked him to call the plant manager in London to see if I could have a meeting with him. I mentioned that I wanted to be fired on the 15th. He told me he had talked to the CEO about my situation, and they agreed that I could be fired and then hired back in London after my divorce, keeping all my seniority. I would have to promise in writing that I would work in London for at least 3 years. I told Brad they were being very generous and that I would give everything to this company no matter where I worked. I know you will, Kurt. I hope you can come back here as soon as you can after those 3 years. Yeah, I hope so too. I have enjoyed all the years I've been here. I left his office feeling both sad and happy. Sad because I would be leaving and happy because I work for such a great company. That evening, while I was packing for my trip to London, my daughter called me. Hello, Dad. How are you? I'm doing okay, honey. How about you? Are you holding up? I'm okay. Mom said you didn't call her last night. I think you should call her tonight if you feel ready. I should. Sorry for forgetting. Guess what? Mom heard from Mrs. Anderson today. Things just keep getting worse for them. Jasmine has an infection. Oh no. I know KJ said Jasmine was really into her dad, but could she have gotten it from him? Does she have a boyfriend who might have given it to her? I asked. Mom said Mrs. Anderson told her that Jasmine doesn't. Did she know who gave it to her? I asked. She won't say who it is, she said. The boy might not even know he has it. Jasmine needs to tell him, and if she has been with anyone else, they need to know too, I told her. She said she has only slept with one guy, she replied. KJ, maybe you should talk to her. She will need a friend, and you might help her talk to the guy who gave it to her. Wow, I thought. That guy is awful. KJ did say Jasmine liked Jack a lot. Maybe that's why. When everything comes out, it will really hurt that family. I felt bad for Mary. She was such a nice woman. She didn't deserve this. See what you can find out, KJ. Be there for her, I said. I will, Dad. I'm going to visit another factory tomorrow, so I might be out of town for a few days. You can call me if you need anything. Okay, Dad. Have a safe trip. Don't forget to call Mom, she said. I will, KJ. Love you. I love you too, Dad. I hung up and took a moment to clear my mind before calling Melanie. I wanted to keep it short and just let her know I was okay. I would try not to let my frustration show. I dialed her number. Hi, honey. Sorry I forgot to call you last night. I got in late. That's okay, honey. I know you're worried about your job. Can you fix the problems? She asked. I hope so. They're counting on me, I replied. I know you can do it. You're great at solving problems, she said. Yes, I am. I thought to myself, I will handle our issues in a way that will surprise her. I'm really tired, Melanie. I'll call you again tomorrow night, I said. Okay, honey. Sleep well, she replied. The next day, I drove 2.5 hours to London. I toured the factory and sat down to chat with the manager. He seemed like a nice guy. It was mid-afternoon when I left the factory and decided to head to the Canadian capital. That was something I wanted to do for a long time. It would take about 7 hours to get there. When I arrived, I got a hotel room and called Melanie. It was around 10 o'clock. Hi, honey. Sorry for calling so late. I just got to the hotel. It's been a long day. That's okay, honey. I'm glad you called anyway. Did you fix anything? She asked. Not yet, but I talked to the plant manager and we have a plan, I replied. Are you coming home this weekend? No, I'll probably be away until at least Wednesday. I'll miss you, she said. I thought, you'll have all weekend and into next week with your friend. I'll be home before you know it, I told her. I wanted to keep her a little worried about what I might find when I got back. Call me, and I'll make sure to have your favorite dinner ready, she said. Yeah, I bet you want a warning, I thought. That would be great. I'm tired again. I'll call you on Sunday, okay? That's fine, I'll talk to you then, she said. After we hung up, I called KJ. Hi, Dad. I'm just driving home from being out with Jasmine. Can I call you tomorrow? Sure, honey. I'll talk to you then. I love you, Dad. I love you too, KJ. Good night. I hung up and went to bed. I was worn out. Driving always takes a lot out of me. The next morning, I visited the capital. It got me excited to work toward my goals. I would be traveling a lot soon. Around 6 o'clock, I got a call from KJ. Hi, Dad. Sorry I couldn't talk to you last night. No problem, KJ. I hope you could help Jasmine. I don't know, Dad. She didn't want to talk much. She seemed scared. I'm sure she is. Did she mention the guy she was with? She said she has only been with one guy, but she wouldn't say anything about him. She was really defensive. She wondered if there was any other way she could have gotten it, KJ said. KJ, I said, I want to share my thoughts. I think her dad might have given her the disease. Don't tell her you think this, but be ready if she starts to talk about it. If that's true, then your mom might have it too. Oh, Dad, I don't like Mom right now. Honey, just 2 more weeks and then we'll go to Cornell. Your grandparents will help your mom. I'm not sure what they will do, but they will help her. When we come back, I will get an apartment. I can't live with her anymore. You don't think you can get past this, Dad? Honey, what I learned about the surgery changed everything. I know kids don't want their parents to split up, but you're not a kid anymore. Thanks, Dad. I still feel like your little girl. You always will be, KJ. I love you, Dad. I love you too, KJ. Call me tomorrow, Dad. I will, KJ. Bye for now. Bye, Dad. The next morning, I drove back to Detroit. I got a hotel room and bought a case of beer. I didn't have much planned except for a call to KJ. I called KJ. Hi, Dad. Where are you today? I'm back in town. I'm just going to relax in my hotel room tonight, I said. Can we do something together tomorrow? She asked. Of course. What do you want to do? After church, I'd like to have lunch and then go fowling. What's fowling? I asked. Fowling, Dad. It's a mix of football and bowling. They play it in Hamtramck. You could teach me how to throw a football. We could talk, and I could tell you what I found out from Jasmine, she said. I don't think we'll run into anyone we know in Hamtramck, so that should be fine. We made plans for when and where to meet, and I said goodbye. Then I opened a beer. I wouldn't drink too much tonight. I didn't want a headache when I met KJ tomorrow. I started thinking about Jasmine. I felt sorry for her. I thought my plan for revenge would be just against Jack and Melanie, but I never thought Jasmine would be caught up in it. What a crazy mess. On Sunday, I spent the day with KJ. She told me that Jasmine had said she had chlamydia. I bet Jack has it too, I told her. That pretty much seals it. How do you know that, Dad? Let's just say I know someone who slept with him and had it. Well, that makes sense. Jasmine said she loves the guy she slept with and would never tell who it was. She knows they will never get married, but it doesn't matter. She loves him anyway. Let's just forget about that for now and have some fun, I said. Sounds good, Dad. So we enjoyed our time together. I learned a new sport, and it was a lot of fun. We had dinner, then she went home and I went back to the hotel. I called Melanie and then went to sleep. The next 3 days, I focused on finishing things at work. I started giving my projects to other engineers. They looked a little confused, but I would explain later. On Wednesday night, I went home. I had come to terms with her lies over the years. I could be in the same room, even in bed, with her and show no feelings. I knew it was only for another week and a half. Melanie seemed happy to see me. So, how are things at the other plants? Did you sort things out? I hope so. I did my best, I told her. Do we need to worry? She asked. I don't know, I said, letting her worry instead. I went to bed soon after dinner. Melanie didn't even ask about my early bedtime or try to start anything. I guess things were back to normal. On Thursday, I went to work and kept wrapping things up. Some of my coworkers noticed things seemed strange and asked if I wanted to go for a drink after work. Tomorrow night would be better, I said. We made plans for then. At home, I started paying bills. I wrote checks to pay them. Yes, I still liked writing checks instead of using online payment. Then I asked Melanie a question that would cause us some problems later on. What do you think? Should we send $1,000 to each of our charities this year? I had an idea of what she would say. 1,000? I'm not sure, she replied. How about $50 or $75? I suggested. Not wanting to seem cheap, she said, let's do $100. Okay, sounds good. I could tell what she was thinking. I just saved us $2,700 from what he was going to give. That can buy me 4 purses and 6 pairs of shoes. So I wrote the checks, $100,000 each to Planned Parenthood, ASPCA, and Wounded Warrior Project. I smiled, thinking this would lead to trouble for her later, just like Jack did. Then I said to her, I'm going to be late coming home tomorrow, so don't wait for dinner. A few guys want to go out for drinks after work. Okay, honey. Thanks for telling me. Maybe I'll do something with Mary then. I should be home by 9 o'clock or maybe a little later. All right, she said. Hey, did you find out what time your parents are flying in next Saturday? Yeah, their flight arrives at 3 o'clock, she replied. I think I'd like to have our family Christmas before they arrive, if that's okay with you. This way, we can just enjoy our time with your parents without thinking about gifts under the tree. I'm behind on the Christmas decorations and will need all day tomorrow to set them up. That's fine with me. I need to finish my Christmas shopping tomorrow. I won't have time on Saturday because I'll be at work. I'll make sure to have everything done by the time you get home. That would be great, honey. A little later, we went to bed. I smiled as I laid down. My plans were coming together. On Friday, I went out to the bar with my coworkers. They didn't realize it would be the last time I would do that. Saturday morning, I got up and started putting up Christmas decorations. I hung up lights while thinking about Christmas. I would be spending it with the best gift I ever received, my KJ. Why did Melanie have to take away more gifts like that? I decorated with tears in my eyes. Now, I'm not like Clark Griswold, but I do have a lot of decorations. It took me until 4 o'clock to finish everything, including the tree. A fake one, of course. It wouldn't be right to cut down a tree every year just for a month. I stepped back and gave a sad smile. This would be the last time I did this. Well, at least for a while. I had about an hour until Melanie got home, so I thought I would mow the lawn one last time before winter came. This would also get rid of the last of the leaves, so it was a good use of my time. It was getting a bit chilly outside, so I went inside to put on my Cornell college sweatshirt. Any chance I could take a little jab at Melanie about our good times, I would. As I was finishing up, Melanie came home. I pulled the lawnmower into the garage and thought about the happy times at Cornell. Those memories felt spoiled now because of what she did to us. I drained the gas and oil from the mower to get it ready for winter storage. I decided to use my old sweatshirt to clean the mower. I didn't mind if I got oil on it. I was going to burn it anyway. While I stood by the fire pit burning some trash, branches, and my sweatshirt, Melanie came outside. She walked up to the fire and said, "Can we order takeout? I'm not feeling well, and I think I have a UTI. That's a urinary tract infection, in case you didn't know. I smiled and asked, "Sure, what do you want?" Then she saw my sweatshirt in the fire. "Is that your Cornell sweatshirt? Why are you burning it?" "Yeah, I got oil on it, so I figured I'd just burn it with the yard waste," I replied. "That's too bad. I know you love that sweatshirt. We'll get you a new one. Do you want me to order pizza or something else?" "Pizza is fine," she said. "I'll order it, clean up, and go pick it up." I took out my phone and called the local pizza place. I went back into the house with a big smile. She thinks she has a UTI, but wait until she goes to the doctor. I changed my clothes and left to pick up the pizza, whistling happily as I stepped outside. I wondered what would happen when she found out from her doctor that she had chlamydia. Would she figure out what happened to Jasmine? I know she's not great at math, but she could put 2 and 2 together. That night, the pizza tasted especially good. Maybe it was the extra flavor of my revenge. I liked it hot, not cold like some people do. On Monday, I was at the office, still smiling. "You look like a cat that just caught a bird," Brad said. "Sometimes things go according to plan, not exactly how you expect, but it still works out," I replied. "What's so good?" Brad asked. "The trouble is about to start in the Anderson house." "Remind me never to get on your bad side," he said. "Today is my last day, Brad. You won't have to worry about it," I joked. "I can't believe you want me to fire you just 10 days before Christmas." "It's all part of the plan. You're trying to save the company, and I'm the 3rd highest paid person here. They won't fire you or the CFO, so I have to go. That's what the other employees will hear. They'll work harder for you, at least for a while." "You're tricky, Kurt. What kind of severance package do you want?" 3 months' pay plus my vacation and personal days," I said. "I'll talk to HR and make sure it stays quiet," Brad answered. "Thanks, Brad. You're a real friend," I replied. "So when do you want to start in London?" he asked. "Would March 1st be too long?" I asked. "That should work just fine. I'll hate to lose you. I hope you'll be back soon." "It all depends on the divorce, Brad." "Either way, remember I'm just a phone call away if you need me to come back for any urgent advice." "That might happen more often than you think," Brad replied. After work, I packed my things and walked out with a box in my hands. I said a quiet goodbye to the few co-workers I saw. I got home early, but Melanie didn't say much. She seemed lost in her thoughts. I guessed it would take at least a day to get the test results. At least she must have been told she didn't have a UTI. I thought this was a good time to share my news about being laid off. "Honey, we need to talk. Has anyone ever had good news after hearing those words?" She looked at me with concern. "What is it?" "I got laid off today." I let the words sink in. "Oh, no. What will we do?" she exclaimed. "Well, I'll put my resume together and start looking, but don't expect anything before the new year. It'll just be like a little vacation," I said, trying to smile. "Why are you so cheerful? How will we make it?" she asked. "You might want to prepare a resume, too. We might need you to get a good job," I said. I could see her face pale. "We have some savings. We should be fine for a few months," I reassured her. "So, what do you want for dinner tonight?" "Can we get takeout again? I still don't feel good." "What did the doctor say? Is it another UTI?" "No, she's running some tests. I should know in a couple days," she replied. "Pizza again then?" I asked. Let's get Chinese instead, she decided. All right, I'll order it for 6 o'clock. Will KJ be home tonight? I inquired. She should be. We need to tell her about your job. I'm going to lie down until dinner, she said. I went downstairs to pack up more of my things. Saturday would be here soon. At dinner, we told KJ about my job. She seemed surprised at first, then gave me a knowing look while Melanie went to grab some soy sauce. On Tuesday, I spent the day online. Melanie thought I was looking for jobs, but I was actually planning trips to different state capitals. I also did chores around the house that I had been putting off. Mainly, I was just trying to avoid Melanie. On Wednesday morning, Melanie received a call from her doctor. He wanted her to come in right away. I smiled as she left the house, thinking she would get bad news, and I would feel happy the rest of the day. I called Melanie while she was at the doctor's office. I told her I would run some errands and wouldn't be back until dinner. When I returned home, Melanie was in bed. She said she caught a bug and that the doctor had given her some medicine and told her to rest. I went down to the basement to check the computer, hoping to overhear a phone call. Jack, you're a jerk. You gave me an STD. Yes, I know it was you. I don't sleep with people who might give me an infection. Well, I guess that's not true. I did. You're the only one. No, Kurt didn't give it to me. I haven't been with him since... I can't really remember. Maybe August. You're the only one, Jack. I guess you can't say the same, can you? Does Mary know? I hate to ask, but what about Jasmine? So you're saying she got it from a toilet seat? That's not what she told Mary. Face it, Jack. You messed up, and it could hurt your family. If I were you, I'd get a lawyer. When Mary figures it out, you're in big trouble. You might be lucky if she just divorces you. No, I wouldn't divorce Kurt and marry you. Why would I want to marry a cheater? You're my only one, Jack, and I've learned my lesson, never again. You better hope Kurt never finds out. He'll hurt you, then probably me. Goodbye. She learned too late. Now it's all over but the tears. She will be the one crying. Just 3 days left. There's a saying, take your small victories where you can find them. I kept telling myself that. This was a big victory. I hoped it would teach her a lesson. I logged into Yahoo Mail and made a fake email address. I wanted to warn Mary. I wouldn't send her a video, but I would send an email saying, Jack has it too. Let her figure it out. I went back upstairs and looked through some of the mementos. I only kept a few things. She could have the rest. I wanted to keep the souvenirs from the Grand Canyon in Vegas. The only thing I wanted to hold on to that made me happy was KJ. Everything else was ruined by the lies. I cooked some steaks on the grill, and KJ and I had dinner together. Melanie didn't come down. I told KJ that Mom got some bad news from the doctor. She understood right away. On Thursday, I looked at apartments. I found a nice one. They were willing to let me pay month to month if I paid an extra $100 each month. I agreed. I moved some of my things from the basement. I would wait to bring the rest of my clothes until Saturday. When I got home, Mary was sitting on the couch, her head in her hands, crying to Melanie. I looked at Melanie and silently asked, "What's wrong?" Acting like I didn't know. "Jack," she mouthed back. I walked out smiling to myself. Another win. I told Melanie I would take KJ out for dinner so they could have some time alone. I could see the guilt on Melanie's face. Another win. KJ and I went to a seafood place for dinner. We talked about Jasmine, Jack, and Mom having chlamydia. Then KJ asked me, "Do you have it too, Dad?" I told her that her mother and I hadn't been together in about 4 months, so no, I didn't have it. She looked shocked. "Really? 4 months, Dad? This is tough to talk about with you, but you're growing up now, so I think we can keep it, well, straightforward. I guess that's the right word. Your mom and I used to have a good relationship. Then you were born and she didn't want to anymore. It's not your fault, so don't think that. I had to start things every single time. Until July 4th. We came back home and your mom was the one who started it. I was so happy. I didn't know back then, but that was when she began seeing Mr. Anderson. I think she felt bad about it. We did connect a few more times that month, but again, I had to start it. Since August, nothing. I'm sorry, Dad. So am I, KJ. You're strong. You'll get through this. Don't be too hard on your mom. She will need your support in the next few months. What are you going to do? She asked. Well, today, I rented an apartment and took some things from the basement there. After we visit Cornell this weekend, I'll have a place to stay. You'll go back home to your mom and grandparents. You'll finish your senior year, enjoy your summer, and then go to Cornell in the fall. Don't worry about me, we'll talk on the phone all the time. I can stop by every day. I might not be there very long. I actually plan to move by March 1st. Until then, I'll be traveling. She started to cry, and it made me cry too. KJ, I love you, remember that, no matter what happens, I love you. That just made her cry even more. We were making a scene in the restaurant, but I didn't care. After dinner, we drove around and tried to think of happier things. I didn't want to go into the house with tears in our eyes. I didn't want Melanie to notice anything. Mary had left. Melanie told me. She's going home to tell Jack to leave. I told her that if things got too hard tonight, she could come back here and spend the night. I hope that's okay. Sure, honey, no problem. This felt a bit like the movie we watched. It's funny how life sometimes feels like art. I hope that for Melanie's sake, Mary never finds out that she is the other woman. It would be a good time to send another anonymous email, but that would mess up my plans, so I'll wait. Mary came over, but Jack wouldn't leave. What did he have to lose? Mary planned to see a divorce lawyer tomorrow. I thought about giving her my lawyer's name, but decided against it. I didn't want to ruin my plans. I went to bed, leaving them to talk. I was thinking, going to London, Ontario will get me out of the country, and if I know my wife, she would likely move back to California right after KJ graduates. That would put a whole continent between us, and I could drive 5 hours to see KJ at Cornell. Great! I didn't want to be annoying, but I would see her at least once a month. I hope she didn't mind. I put my phone on the charger, turned over, and went to sleep. On Friday morning, I did some chores around the house. I wouldn't miss this place. It was Melanie's house, too big and empty for me. But I would miss the memories. We had spent the last 10 years here. I told Melanie I had some errands to run and left. I called the lawyer to make sure we were ready for the meeting the next day at 4 o'clock. I need it done exactly at 4 o'clock, I said. No problem. It was already arranged. Then I stopped by the florist. I took my collage of pictures of Melanie and Jack inside. I asked the person at the counter if I could see the delivery. She took it out of the cooler and opened the box. It was perfect. There were 17 red roses around one black rose in the center. I took the lid and asked for some double-sided tape. I put the collage on the lid and lightly covered it with tissue paper, leaving one corner open so she would see it. The card said, 17 good, 1 bad. Look under the lid. I made sure they knew to deliver it at exactly 3:55 the next afternoon. They promised it would be done. I paid the bill, including a little extra for delivery. Then I told the woman I wouldn't be there to give a tip to the driver, so I gave her a $20 bill to pass on. After that, I went back home. That night, I slept really well. I woke up at 8 o'clock and made a big breakfast. KJ was already up and had started the coffee. I took out eggs, waffle mix, bacon, ham, sausage, biscuits, and gravy. I was going all out. It took me over an hour, but we finally sat down to eat. Eat until you're full. You never know when your next meal will be, I said, remembering something my dad always said. KJ found it funny. This time, I think it meant a lot to Melanie. After breakfast, we relaxed together. I told them I would grill steaks for lunch around 2 o'clock. I wanted to spend the day with family because that's what really matters, especially right now. We all shared stories about past Christmases. Remembering made us feel happy, but sad at the same time. At 1:15, I turned on the oven and put in 3 big baked potatoes and a sweet potato casserole. I started the grill around 1:45 and put 3 big porterhouse steaks on it. Then I went inside to make salads for everyone. KJ came into the kitchen and said, "Let me do that, Dad. You go watch the grill." "Thanks, KJ. You're the best." I stood at the grill, thinking about my life. Bittersweet was a good way to describe it. We had lunch and continued to enjoy being together. Around 3 o'clock, we went to the living room to open presents. We always saved the big ones for last. My presents were the usual gifts: socks, underwear, pants, shirts, everything a guy needs. KJ got some nice gifts, but I had a lot for her from both her mom and me. Then I gave KJ a present. She opened it and found a used laptop that I had made sure was all cleaned up. "This should last you at least through your first year at Cornell," I told her. "Thanks, Dad," KJ smiled. Next, Melanie handed me a box. I was curious about what was inside. There was a card on it. I opened it and read, "To the best husband in the world, I hope you can use this." When I opened the box, it was a new briefcase. My old one was nearly 18 years old. I smiled and said, "I sure can, thanks." Then I gave Melanie my present. She opened the box to find a photo album that I had made. She looked at the front cover, which said, "Our time together." The first picture in the book was of the algebra book that had brought us together. We still kept it on the shelf. Next were photos from our time dating, our diplomas, the receipt for her engagement ring, our wedding day, the reception, our honeymoon, our first apartment, and our first trip to California. I wrote a note saying, "Kaylee Jane was conceived somewhere along the way." Then came pictures of her pregnancy, our baby's first photos, birthday cards, party pictures, and vacations. There were even memories from Disney World and graduations. She took her time looking through the album, enjoying the memories. I turned to KJ and said, "Let's clean up this mess, KJ." We picked up all the wrapping paper and boxes, carried her gifts to her room, and took mine to the car. We returned just in time. I checked my watch. It read 3:54. Melanie turned the last page, which was blank except for a note saying, "To be added in 5 minutes." Just then, the doorbell rang. "Melanie, can you get the door?" I asked. As she went to answer it, I quietly walked outside to my car, and KJ followed me. The florist handed Melanie a box of flowers. She opened it to find 17 red roses and 1 black rose. She picked up a card and started reading it. When she turned the lid over, she saw the tissue paper inside. She tugged on it, and it tore. Then she saw a picture, but it took her a moment to realize what it was. Even from the driveway, I could see her face go pale. She looked up and saw a woman walking toward her. "Are you Melanie Van Hall?" the woman asked. "Yes, I am," Melanie replied, sounding confused. "You have been served," the woman said, handing her a manila envelope along with a card. Melanie opened the card. "To my wife of 18.5 years. Honor e emotions, adoration, our respect to trust lies, infidelity, hear, tard lid. At that moment, she fainted. The process server called 911 while we waved goodbye and left. Later, I learned more about what happened from friends, neighbors, her family, lawyers, and my own guesses. The ambulance arrived and managed to wake Melanie up using smelling salts. They checked her health and asked if she wanted to go to the hospital. She said, "No." Just then, her parents arrived. They hurried to the house to see what had happened. They found Melanie on the couch with a manila envelope on the floor, some papers spilling out. "What happened, Melanie? Are you okay?" her mom asked as her dad picked up the envelope. "Kurt filed for divorce, Marge," he said. "Melanie, what did you do?" They looked around and saw a photo album and a box of flowers. Her mom opened the album and started to look through it. "This is lovely, dear," she said to her daughter. Her dad picked up the box of flowers, saw a black rose, and then looked at the card. He found the lid pushed under the coffee table. His wife turned to him when she heard him gasp. She looked at the lid and her eyes opened wide. Turning to Melanie, she said, "You didn't!" Melanie started to cry. They gathered everything together and took it to the kitchen table. They laid out the items, keeping the lid turned so no one could see the picture inside. Her dad took the papers from the manila envelope as her mom said, "You two can work through this, but it will take a lot of effort from you, Melanie." Then her dad added, "I don't think they can fix this, dear." She looked at him, confused. He opened a paper that looked like an old hospital bill. Then he looked at his daughter. "Did you have your tubes tied after the C-section?" Melanie's eyes went wide. She screamed and passed out again. Her mom got a cool, wet towel and placed it on her head. When she woke up, she looked lost. Her dad said, "Melanie, you are my daughter and I will always love you, but right now I'm very upset with you. I can't believe you hurt your marriage this way, either by cheating or with the tubes tied." He might have forgiven the affair. Women do odd things when they are nearing 40. He glanced at his wife and she looked away. "But he won't be able to forgive you for getting your tubes tied without telling him. You know he wanted at least one more child. Remember, Marge, they tried for years. She took that dream from him. She has been carrying this secret since Kaylee was born." They looked over the divorce papers. Her dad asked, "Is it true that your household net worth is only about $65,000? Melanie replied, "No way, Dad. We have investments, cash in the bank, a 401k, and the house. Our net worth should be over $600,000. Well, that's not what this says. He must be hiding money. We need to get a lawyer to find out where that money is. And so, they did. I was called to court at the end of January. I had to return from a road trip out west. I stood before the judge with my lawyer. The lawyer told me, "This judge is known for usually agreeing with women in divorce cases." She looked straight at me and asked, "I see in the bank statements from November that you have over $600,000 in home value, investments, savings, and 401k. But in your divorce proposal, you say your worth is only $65,000. Can you explain the big difference?" "Your Honor, I used $250,000 to pay for my daughter's college tuition at Cornell starting this fall. That brings my total down to $350,000. I also donated $300,000 to 2 charities my wife likes and one that I like, each getting $100,000, so that leaves me with about $65,000 net worth. Here are the receipts and canceled checks, Your Honor." My lawyer stepped up and handed them to her. I added, "The $65,000 is just an estimate based on what we can sell our house for. The other things are paid-off cars and personal items. She keeps her car and I keep mine." "You really donated $300,000 to charity? What charities are they? Did you talk about it with her first?" the judge asked. "Yes, I talked with her on December 11th, the same day I wrote the checks. We were in the kitchen and I was paying bills. I asked my wife, 'How much do you want to donate to our favorite charities this year, honey? $1,000? She said no, so I asked about $50 or $75. Then she replied, "No, let's do $100,000. So that's what I did. I wrote 3 checks, one to Planned Parenthood for $100,000, one to ASPCA for $100,000, and one to the Wounded Warrior Project for $100,000. My wife is very generous with our money." "I meant $100, not $100,000, my wife shouted. The judge looked at me. Planned Parenthood and the ASPCA were 2 of her favorite charities, and she couldn't force them to give the money back. The Wounded Warrior Project wasn't her favorite, but it mattered to many people, so she couldn't do anything about that one either. Then Melanie shouted, "He gave me a disease!" Before the judge could respond, I said in a controlled but angry tone, "Your Honor, I have never had a disease, nor have I ever been unfaithful. Maybe you should ask my wife if she can say the same." So she had spoken to Jack after I sent a Merry Christmas email saying, "Merry Christmas, I hope you like your present." I included a picture of him with a lady he shouldn't have been with. I signed it KVH. "Sir, cheating is not part of this court case and is not a reason for divorce in this state. We are here to find out where the money has gone. Usually, a divorce agreement includes paying for the child's education. You have already done that in advance. I can't make the charities give back the money, so I'll split the $65,000 between both of you. I'll also add $40,000 a year for 3 years in spousal support. This will help your wife find a job." My lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, my client is out of work. He lost his job before Christmas and hasn't found a new one here. He has looked in other states, but still no luck. We ask that support be postponed until he finds a job here or anywhere else." "Agreed. Spousal support will start once he finds work, lasting for 3 years. I smiled inside, thinking, she didn't say anything about working in another country. "Your Honor," my lawyer said. "Yes," she replied. "Can we get a decision on the divorce now? Do both parties agree to it?" "My client does," my lawyer answered. I turned to look at Melanie. She stared back at me with anger and sadness in her eyes. "My client agrees too," Melanie's lawyer said. "She knew we would never get back together. The surgery was too big for us to forget." "All right. The house will be sold and the money shared." My lawyer said it was the quickest divorce he had ever seen. Epilogue. After a month of hiking in Europe, I started my new job in London, Ontario. I told them I would be there for at least 3 years, but might want to move back to Detroit after that. I also promised to work hard to make it the best plant in the company. I left my marriage nearly broke, but so did she. The difference is that I can live very simply. In 15 years, with smart investments, I could grow my money to $1 million. Epilogue. 15 years later. Life doesn't always go as planned. I did move back to Detroit after 3 years and left the London plant as the best-run plant in the company. I returned as the plant manager because Brad retired and recommended me. Melanie moved back to California. She is living with her parents and helping them in their old age. She dated a few men, but nothing serious came from it. I wonder if it was her or them. Maybe when she told them what happened in our marriage, they ran away. I'd like to think so. KJ is now married with 2 kids, working as an engineer at the New Jersey plant. I helped her get an internship there, and they liked her so much they offered her a job after she graduated. Mary took a lot from Jack. I think he had enough money to move to Lansing, where he became a used car salesman. Jasmine went through therapy for a few years and met a nice man. They are now married with 2 kids. You might be wondering how life hasn't gone as I planned. Well, as I said, I moved back to the Detroit area. I wanted to help our veterans more, so I often visited the VA center to support them. During one of my visits, I met Tom Jackson, a veteran who was facing cancer, likely from the chemicals used in Afghanistan. I got to know Tom well over the 8 months he fought the disease. Sadly, he lost that fight. Before he passed away, he asked to talk to me. "Kurt, I have a big favor to ask you, one that I think you will appreciate." "What is it, Tom?" "I want you to take care of my family." He had a wife and 3 young boys. "Of course, Tom. I will look out for them." "No, Kurt. I know you are a good man, and I see how my wife looks at you. I'm saying you have my blessing if you want to become part of their lives." His wife was 10 years younger than me. They had 3 boys who were 3, 6, and 8. It would be a new family for me. "I will take care of them no matter what," I said. "And if Cheryl and I find a connection after we date, I would be honored. Just know that they will always remember you. I promise I won't let them forget." So, at 45, I married Cheryl Jackson. Her maiden name was Vandermeer. She was of Dutch background and came from another part of the state where there is a large Dutch community. There is even a town named Holland, which makes sense given the lakes, lowlands, dunes, marshes, and rivers. It makes more sense than Iowa. Instead of living simply and saving up to be a millionaire, I now have a family with 3 boys. I live in Bloomfield Hills, and I'm doing just fine. I love my new life. Oh, there's one more thing. I saw Melanie at KJ's college graduation. She looked empty, even after 4 years. She came over to me and handed me an envelope saying, "I'm really sorry." I put the envelope in my coat to open later and enjoyed the graduation ceremony. On the plane back to Detroit, I opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter from Melanie. "Kurt, first, let me say I am sorry. When you divorced me, I was so angry at you for taking away everything we built together. After 18 years of marriage, I ended up with just $33,000. My parents tried to comfort me and even paid for a therapist, which I was forced to see. It took me 3 years to be able to say I'm sorry to you. I regret so much. My therapist believes, and I agree, that the reason I cheated was because I was nearing 40 and was struggling with what we had lost. I needed to feel wanted and loved, but couldn't ask you for that. I held back from you ever since Kaylee was born and made you beg for my attention. I see now it was because I made a foolish choice about my body. I kept that from you and lied. Every time you reached out to me, I felt guilt and shame and couldn't explain what I had done. If you recall, I had just read about zero population growth and truly believed in it. Dear Name, I want to share some things with you. I had already talked to my doctor about having a C-section. During the operation, she did what was needed. I know you wanted us to have more kids, maybe one more, but I was thinking of myself, and that caused a distance between us. Our relationship changed after that. You still cared for me and gave so much love to our daughter. You are a wonderful father and husband. I know we can't fix things between us, but I want you to understand that my choices had nothing to do with you. It was all about me. They say the best way to get back at someone is to live your life happily. I know you will have that happiness. You deserve it. Sincerely, Melanie, I have to say I felt a mix of tears and smiles while writing this. Hey, audience! If you like this video and want to keep up with more thrilling stories, make sure to subscribe to Prince Cheating Tales and hit the notification bell. You don't want to miss out on our upcoming adventures. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next wonderful story.